Town started at 6:30, 6:00.
Oh,
15 minutes, all good.
Are they?
It's.
All right, we're live.
it's the last
We're live,
meeting
everybody.
of the month, but,
We wait for
they don't
Dave.
have one, like you guys have one earlier in the month.
Yeah.
They don't have it.
No.
The second meeting,
forgot about that.
New Paltz too is tonight. So there's always.
Town.
Oh, town as well.
Yeah, no, I know the village is on Tuesdays. Maybe not. Yeah. Well,
Although that's been before.
yeah, but this is their best shot at it.
I've seen this statewide,
We're just waiting for Mr. Gordon.
most of them.
Yes, yeah.
So happy talk.
Less than 15 minutes. Yeah.
I realized I'm gonna lose my. Yeah. Oh, it's like, the only ones that have any chance of that. Places that.
Yeah.
At least this case, the whole name do.
Right.
Greg,
right. No, I
Yes,
think
definitely.
it's.
I found it wrong, and it.
Often given the
You put a
choice,
ladder on that.
often given the choice, but we just say, well. Why, it's not.
Actually, I think I guess 17. As I told you, we might get through this pretty quickly.
Who's going to?
Right.
That sounds like it's.
I usually write what time on the minutes, but
That was before.
I wanted a nice
the only way I can remember.
In terms of this.
Oh, I never.
Yeah.
You know, so at first I was like the white.
Okay, the planning board meeting of April 27th of the town of Rochester is called to order. And for allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Stacy, would you read the roll, please?
Chair Jones,
Here.
member Nelson,
Here.
member Roberts,
Just about.
member Roberts. Member Duda here, member Veteran.
Here.
Member Pinsky and member Formal are absent, and we have Dave Gordon, Dave Church, and myself.
Okay, so just want to get something out of the way that Stacy has been reminding every meeting to please take care of it. And it's a form or a process called establishing a limited pre-application consultation procedure. And it is it's in the agenda on Muni Collab. And Stacy, why don't you go through what it says?
Oh, jeez. Okay,
You can wing it, you wrote it.
Aaron wrote it. All right, I'll skim through it. So it's essentially the planning board giving the chair authorization to hold pre-application meetings and consultations. Says upon written request of an applicant and zoning determination requiring planning board review, the planning board chair is authorized to hold a limited pre-application consultation. These consultations are informational only and shall not include any binding determinations or commitments on behalf of the planning board. The town planning consultant and or planning board attorney may participate in a pre-application consultation only for the purpose of providing general guidance, identifying required approvals, and outlining expected application components. Participation is limited to a maximum cumulative cost of $1,000 per applicant unless additional authorization is granted by the planning board. And applicants choosing to participate must sign a pre-application consultation request and cost acknowledgement form to be developed by the planning board clerk, which states the nature of the meeting, the cap on consultant time, a statement that all consultant fees for the meeting are the responsibility of the applicant, and acknowledging that the discussions are non-binding.
So we did this out of an abundance of caution to make sure we get paid or have something that binds the applicant that we can get paid in case they decide not to go forward. So there's two options that applicants can take. They can get a freebie by coming for a pre-application meeting with this group in public, and it's just a general chit chat with them. Or if they can have a separate meeting, which is referred to here, with myself, another board member or two, and any one of the consultants. So long as there's an understanding that whatever the length of time is, it's chargeable to the applicant. And we will endeavor to gather the money or to get the money from the applicant even prior to them coming to the planning board formally. So it's just to have something in writing as to a procedure. So I'm not out there winging it. And that the town gets paid where we are out there talking to people. And that we have something that's legally binding on the applicant or proposed applicant, that we can go and ask them for the money.
So.
I was gonna say, I did forget one part, sorry, Hans. It also says the chair shall provide a brief summary of the consultation limited to date, participants, and general topics at the next meeting. So you guys will, everybody that's not participating in that meeting, that's a part of the board, will have an understanding of what happened during the meeting.
But that was the first thing I wanted, because I think it's important that,
Yes,
it's like, yeah, in other words, you just formalize basically the existing process, right?
yes.
That's what.
Yeah. So any other questions? Would somebody make a motion to approve this? It's a planning board procedure.
I'll make a motion.
Peter makes the motion,
I say.
Hans seconds it. All in favor?
Aye.
Or the chairman votes aye, so 5-0, 2 absences, so thank you. And we did have one this last week, so I'll give you a summary of that before the meeting is out. It was a meeting to talk about what I call stage 2 of the Innis project, so I'll give you a quick update of that.
Are these written summaries or verbal?
The objective is to have a written summary minutes.
Okay.
Unfortunately, the able administrative assistant couldn't make the meeting,
Okay,
so
no,
either
just no.
either
procedurally,
myself
just kind of
or
want-
Hans, we're gonna put something together for
The
the.
unable attendant will put a summary together. I'm going to do
Okay.
it this week.
So yeah, I would prefer to just have a couple of pages or less of comments. So,
It's
So
like
Hans.
coffee. Peter.
okay, Bill, Hemlock Ventures,
Not Ventures. Start at the beginning or are we jumping in the middle?
well, last time we met, we had asked that a couple of things be placed on the map.
Which you may not have gotten to yet. Time we got those onto the map. We weren't able to get them to you in time before the meeting, so. That's the one I got here. That was, one thing Jennifer had requested was to show on the lot that has the addition of the small parcel of Heaven's Way to indicate what would be the buildable area in there, so that would be everything between the side yard setbacks and the limits by the wetland buffers. So we outlined that in there. The other substantial thing I think that was news to me was that there was a house under construction on the front lot. And so we located that. It's looks like it's pretty far along. So the driveway, that house, septic leach field, septic tank, these all in place already.
That's the one revised, area 7.5.
Yes, 7 point,
Yeah.
the Baker Road frontage lot.
It's pretty far along.
Yeah,
It's almost finished.
I drove
Yeah.
it today.
yeah, yeah.
All right, so Bill, the one thing that seems to be missing, you have the timber rattlesnake note on it. You have the buffer around the wetlands. You need to get me the limits of disturbance before I'll sign the map. It's not on the map that I have here.
Okay,
You realize that, right?
yeah.
Okay, so this map is,
Oh, yeah, yeah, that's not, the other you have is not the final draft.
okay, well, this is dated March 24th. What
Yeah.
does everybody else have?
That's.
This is revised April 4th.
Revised April. April 4th?
Yes, you're right, April 4th.
Yeah, yeah, so there, that was before we had the house on there and everything else, we hadn't even actually done the actual ground survey on the part, the Heaven's Way parcel. At that time, so.
right, so as long as the applicant and you understand that that's gonna have to be on there, the limits of disturbance.
Okay, yep.
Right?
We don't need to put a well and a septic area, that's right?
The house isn't built.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty limited. Where.
I don't know if you, because Jennifer was talking about just showing the area of the buildable area, you want that and the limited disturbance or?
Well, the assumption is that if you, the limits of disturbance, you would have everything within there, within that
Yeah, yeah,
septic. Put the septic and well in there.
right. I just asking, do we need to show the buildable area then, if we're gonna put the limits of disturbance?
Well, I look at the buildable area and the limits of disturbance as being the same thing.
No.
All right, then make it the limits of disturbance. That would include the
Okay.
buildable area
That,
as well as the sewer and the well.
yeah, that's what is planned to be built on. The buildable area Jennifer was talking about, she was talking about. She wanted to see kind of a shaded outline of what is not either in the side yard setback or in wetland buffer. So could build with any place within that area.
Okay, well, Jennifer's not here. Let's go with what,
Okay,
all right? And I think it accomplishes the same thing,
yeah, I was just saying, do we want both of them? You want
No.
one or the other?
one or the
So-
other. It's a lot line granted
Okay.
and had a lot of bumps on it and warts on it, but I think we're getting there.
Okay. Now we can do,
And then, we need an easement, we need an RMA or an easement and maintenance agreement, proof that there's a maintenance agreement. Or permission to use the road. And something that evidences a road maintenance agreement regarding that.
whatever is existing.
So there was an easement on it that allowed
Yeah.
for. And I think this board was anticipating some sort of a road maintenance agreement as well.
I can get you as one party to agree to it, but I can't make all the property owners in there sign on to an
What are
agreement.
you talking about? That's a different property.
What are you talking about?
How did you get here?
Making Heaven's Way.
It's a different property.
This is the road. This is the road.
That's the same, this is, this road is on your property?
No, his property.
Oh, so this is a public road?
Yeah.
Okay, so.
Well, the Heaven's Way is not
Women's Way is private.
private.
Designated as private.
Yeah, it's a private road, and then you've got this road that's maintained by the Citizens Grading Association.
Well, okay, let's. What right does he have to get?
It's in the easement.
And he's got an existing.
I've seen the easement.
They have an access easement, whether they are part of a road maintenance agreement. These are things that were put in place 20 years ago.
All right, so I'll tell you what. The easement, which is in the deed. Some of us, when we have nothing to do, we read deeds. There's an easement there. I know Peter does it.
I'm not one of those people, by the way.
Especially going back to the 1700s in longhand.
Now. Bill's got to get to Marbletown.
Right.
So there is an easement. It's within the deed. I want to see the easement verbiage on the map.
Okay.
And when the property is sold, obviously that will go along with the deed. If the lawyer does it right. But it definitely gives rights to whoever has this property, whoever buys this property.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. Does the board have any other questions, comments? Dave? All right. So I'm gonna quickly read this. This is a lot line for an applicant, Hemlock Ventures LLC. It reason for request, Hemlock Ventures has asked that a lot line, a line separating two parcels be moved to make the two parcels into one. Lot one has an approved building permit for a single family dwelling and garage, which are shown on the plan and plat provided. The town code enforcement officer zoning permit determination provided states that development with the approved building permit will not be impacted by the proposed LLI. The new parcels will improve in compliance with the lot standards and will meet the requirements of the town code section 125-18 with respect to approving lot line adjustments. The planning board, dropping down to the bottom, the planning board has reviewed the plat and certifies the lot improvement proposed will meet town of Rochester lot requirements, but will improve the ability of the existing parcel to comply with setback, road access, and other standards for the A3 zoning district, and for recording purposes only, further represents an exempt lot improvement in accordance with section 125-18 of the town of Rochester subdivision regulations. No subdivisions approval is required or given by the planning board. The planning board further grants the authority to the chair to sign the plat certifying the lot improvements for filing purposes without further resolution upon receipt, and the chair's determination that such plat meets the requirements of the code and is in agreement with the survey plan and the maps provided for review. The plat shall be prepared by a licensed land surveyor or professional engineer to describe the conveyances involved by meets and bounds. The following notes with map elements must be placed on the map reflecting this lot line certification. First one, these plans are acknowledged by the town of Rochester and for recording purposes only to represent an exempt lot improvement in accordance with section 125-18 of the town of Rochester subdivision regulations. No subdivision approval is required or given. Lot improvement parcel shall not be considered a separate building lot apart from the tract to which it is being added. 2, the plat will delineate limits of disturbance to the satisfaction of the planning board chair prior to signature. The plat will include a note regarding timber rattlesnakes and habitat to the satisfaction of the planning board chair prior to signature. And Bill, that note is the same note that we have on the
Yeah.
larger lot. The plat will delineate 100-foot buffer around any and all wetlands as per requirement of the town code. Number 5, the plat shall include any and all notes from prior subdivision approval for the subject parcels to the satisfaction of the planning board chair prior to signature. An access easement and maintenance agreement for Heaven's Way will be provided to the satisfaction of the planning board chair and added, the verbiage of it added to the map. Did you hear that, Bill?
Yes,
I'm adding,
and it put the easement verbiage on the map.
yes. Stacy, would you make a note of that?
Yes.
Okay, the owner shall file with the office of the Ulster County Clerk such certified plat bearing the chair's signature and notes 1 through 6 above within 62 days of this certification. The owner shall have the responsibility to return 4 Ulster County certified copies of the plat to the town of Rochester Planning Board within 30 days of filing. So let me just make sure that we have the right numbering for that, which has to go onto the map. 1, number 1, number 3, number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, 5, and 6. Okay. So I'll entertain a motion with the adjustment that the easement from the deed, the road easement from the deed must be put on the map. And that the notes 1 through 6 must be either followed or placed on the map. So I'll entertain a motion to that effect.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Peter, Paulina seconds. All in favor?
I,
Chair votes aye. We'll do a new one. I'll sign it tomorrow. Okay.
The draft has each a couple of things in there.
Okay.
The 1 through 6 and last paragraph. That are 1 and 2. And the rattlesnake.
Yeah, I changed that on there.
Okay.
I changed the 2 to
One.
6. Okay,
What's that? I just did it if you want. I
I
just
know.
did it.
I'll say so.
Okay.
Through 6.
Okay.
she'll do it, then I'll sign it tomorrow. I need a clean
Oh,
copy to sign.
Stacy, I just sent it, I'll email it to you, I just did it,
Oh, okay. Thanks, Dave.
Thanks, Dave.
I'll ditch the note.
Okay. All right, so Nadine, we're gonna just do the one more for that Bill is representing, then we'll get to dignified dwellings.
Thank you.
All right, Bill, done forms. Last time we met, we did set up and we all went on the site to visit. I don't know if any of the board members has comments from the site visit. And Bill, there were some notes that you had to make on the map. This is-
Notes or some changes to the map, and there was one little thing like, remember was. There was a little farm lane cuts across the corner of the lot from the adjacent property to the fields. And there's some question about whether there was an easement for that, if there's not, and that was requested to be labeled to be abandoned. We did that. Make sure we're looking at the same map here. Revised April 21st.
Yep.
What you have?
To edit lot 3.
Yeah.
I think you were checking on the meets and bounds, right? I think you had, when we were walked, I think you had not. You said it was gonna shift because the meets and bounds were not.
Yeah, there was that, and also on the one that was, should have been loaded up to Munich Lab. Dated April 21st, one. Kind of significant change, but it really doesn't affect the big picture. It would be, there was an existing well. They had a garden area and they've got a well down there. And originally that well was falling within lot 3. And the property owner said, oh, no, we didn't want that to go. We want that to stay with our existing house parcel, which is lot 1. So it just extended lot 1 down to include that in there, reducing the size of lot. And it's still, that's 4.27 acres, and it's a 3 acre zone area.
So that second well that you're referring to. Is down at the bottom of the of lot 1,
Yes.
and that was previously part of lot.
That had been part of lot 3, so lot 3 just extended all the way back to the border of lot 4. So we just took the lower end of it and topped that off and included it with lot 1.
Okay.
There's still, plenty of room on lot 3 for everything.
Still meets the bulk requirements.
Yep.
Okay, all right, I see what you did.
Then, I don't know if that's a you thing or not, but we need to lead to the Munich Lab to reflect that, right? Project description, because a lot of acreage has changed.
Okay, yeah, project description, yeah, narrative or whatever you call it. Yeah, okay.
Because it still lists 5.3 acres here for lot 3.
Also saw that the whole septic dwelling and septic dwelling allocations should be on the map. Is that-
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
2 and 4 were missing before.
All right, Hans?
Yeah.
You're good, okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Nothing to add.
Going once,
No.
going twice, okay.
So actually, I'm sorry,
You're right.
for the 3rd time. Do we need waiver requests for farmland on this? I
Was-
think you just probably do unless,
Was 125-12 impacted?
well, you agreed to narrow the soils listed last meeting.
Right.
Yeah, portion of
What's the percent?
lot 2 was. Someplace, it looks to me roughly 50%, I don't know, exactly, but it is prime farmland, so yes.
So yeah, you would.
On that one lot, and going by this, what I see as the strict wording of the code, as a lot in a subdivision, that's a lot. It's not the whole subdivision, it's less than
Okay.
40% of the whole subdivision.
So we need
For
a
sure, but-
waiver for lot 2,
Okay,
all right. Peter, anything else?
No, that was it. Okay, so did this get referred to the highway department and fire department for review?
Bill, we had talked about that on, asked you to send it off to them,
yep,
highway and fire. All right, so I'd like to propose that we set the public hearing. And Bill, if those things aren't to us by the public hearing, they'll just be, when we get to this decision, we'll, there'll be conditions. But I don't think any of these are gonna affect the public hearing.
No, I don't expect so, and time frame thing over here is gonna be scheduling to get highway and fire to come out. That's up to them, when we can get them to come out.
All right, so there be nothing else, I entertain a motion to do, schedule the public hearing for the 11th.
I make a motion to schedule a public hearing for May 11th.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Chair votes aye. And we have enough, escrow?
One more thing I wanted to mention was, just looking at the EAF, it flagged yes for 12, which is a contiguous to a building archaeological. Did we ever find out about that from SHPO?
I don't know. Have to check, you know. Certainly, we submitted it to DEC on wetlands. Check and see which.
It's probably either one of two stone houses there, so.
Yeah,
Oh, that's right.
We did talk about it last time, I just don't remember.
Yeah, the house that's next door, on the same side, but then across the road also is, Dunn's house, I think. Right, belong to Dunn's old house. I don't know.
So Bill, take care of that also.
Yep.
Was that in the, board meeting letter?
I have to.
Okay. All right, so Bill, you have a public hearing. You have a lot of things that need to be, checked on.
all right,
All right,
scheduling the public hearing.
the public hearing will be on May 11th.
Wasn't supposed to be water.
Huh?
It wasn't supposed to be.
It was in the post meeting letter, yeah, okay. Thank you, Bill.
All right.
It's still,
Dignified dwellings.
Thank you. Thanks.
Give a decision to be with.
Yeah, I think you took it from me. Yeah, you took both from me at the same time. I tried to hold them so you don't lose them, but. Okay,
Peter, how would you like to read the decision for dignified dwellings?
I can do that.
You wanna,
Okay, sure. There's a sip of tea with honey.
let me just first ask, does the applicant have anything to update us on? So we're gonna do the decision tonight. And, let's roll.
This is a resolution for the planning board for major subdivision approval. For dignified dwellings, EV 2023-20-45. Reason for request, the applicant proposes a major 3-lot subdivision with private road for residential purposes. Lot 1 to be plus or minus 12.3 acres, currently vacant. Lot 2 to be plus or minus 11 acres, currently vacant. Lot 3, 15.1 acres, currently vacant. As conservation area plus or minus 17 acres is proposed, shared by lots 2 and 3. Location is on Rose Hill Road. I'm not gonna read all the details of the SBL. Code enforcement major subdivision approval, planning board application. Originally filed as a 4-lot subdivision, updated to a 3-lot subdivision, August 27th, 2025. Referred to Ulster County Planning Board, permit from Ulster County Health and Town of Rochester Highway Superintendent as condition of approval. Coordination with the town of Marbletown as a small portion of the proposed lot 1 includes plus or minus 0.35 acres of SBL 60.4-1-31 under same applicant ownership, New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, wetlands jurisdiction.
We can skip.
I'll skip all the
others.
other,
Yeah,
yeah. Is it fine?
takes us all the way to, first, page 4, the first whereas.
Okay. All right, continuing to the whereas Dignified Dwellings LLC owner and applicant seeks approval for a major 3-lot subdivision with private road for residential purposes. There's the same lot descriptions, plus or minus. Whereas the applicant submitted an application of zoning permit and classification to the town of Rochester, and whereas the applicant put the original roadway in without authorization and before any appearance at the planning board was issued a stop work order by the CEO at the outset of the project, and whereas the CEO determined that the applicant had met zoning requirements and it would require major subdivision approval. And whereas the applicant submitted an application for subdivision approval filed on August 27th, 2025, after an earlier submission for an alternative major subdivision design. The subdivision was supplemented with substantial, the submission was supplemented with substantial documentation as listed above, and whereas the applicant has made multiple appearances at the planning board meetings, and whereas the planning board has carefully considered all submittals relating to the project from the applicant and their consultants, its own consultants, comments and or approvals from public officials and agencies, including and without limitation, code enforcement officer and the general public. And whereas such consideration by the planning board included the review of alternative subdivision layouts and designs, including a conservation design option as guided by the town of Rochester subdivision regulations. And whereas the planning board coordinated review and public hearing notice with the town of Marbletown, given the inclusion of a contiguous small parcel of land also owned by the applicant that is part of the application. That coordination and comments from Marbletown are referenced in the above listed documentation, and any comments by Marbletown will be met in this decision. And whereas Rose Hill is maintained by the town of Rochester and plowed by the town of Marbletown, and whereas the planning board reviewed the full environmental assessment form, part 1 submitted by the applicant, and on January 15th, 2024, circulated notice to involved agencies, declaration of intent to be lead agency, Dignified Dwellings LLC, major subdivision. And whereas the lead agency, the planning board, reviewed the FIF part 2 at their March 30th, 2026 meeting. At their April 13th, 2026 meeting, the planning board reviewed the FIF part 3 prepared by the town planner and made a negative declaration that this project will not have a potential for significant adverse environmental impact based on a review of all application documentation. A completed CEF part 3 has been signed and filed, and whereas at their March 3rd, 2026, the planning board opened a public hearing, and on this application, said hearing through their April 13th, 2026 meeting. During said public hearing, comments were made and considered by the planning board. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the town of Rochester Planning Board hereby finds that this application complies with the criteria for approval in chapters 125 and 140 of the town code and with all other applicable provisions of the town code, and hereby approves the project as depicted in Dignified Dwellings subdivision plan map set prepared by Peak Engineering dated 12/22/2025 with revisions dated 1/24/2026 to 11/2026, 3/10/2026, and consisting of 5 sheets. I don't need to leave the sheets. General conditions.
Hey, before we read that, hey, Dave, the second. The next to last, whereas the last line says the completed SEAF.
Yeah, it's gotta be FBA.
FEAF,
Okay, good call.
I was wondering what,
yeah, FEAF.
All right, general conditions, you don't want me to read those, right?
No,
Those general conditions are the general conditions, specific conditions of approval. Number 1, a final subdivision map, plan/plat shall be provided consistent with the maps and other documentation noted above and consistent with all conditions of this approval. Number 2, all surveyors and engineers' notes on final maps submitted must be followed in the field. Number 3, documentation of all relevant and required and approved Ulster County Health Department permits shall be provided to the planning board chair prior to signature by said chair of the final subdivision plan/plat. Number 4, the final subdivision map shall show a 100-foot buffer around any wetland shown on said map. Additionally, no paved areas, including road or driveway improvements, shall be allowed in the 100-foot buffer of any wetland. Number 5, the applicant shall provide documentation on a homeowners association and road maintenance agreement necessary to meet all elements, including notes on the plan/plat for this major subdivision. This documentation will be filed with the town of Rochester as acceptable to the planning board chair and with the town board of trustees in consultation with the town attorney prior to signature of final plan/plat. Number 6, the HOA documentation provided will include text related to a voluntary conservation easement for a plus or minus 17-acre conservation area consistent with the plan/plat to be signed by the planning board chair. Said text of the easement will be noted on the map and contained in the deeds for each of the 3 parcels. Said HOA agreement must be satisfactory to the planning board attorney prior to the planning board chair signing the final plan/plat. Number 7, the text of the prohibited activities in the conservation area will be placed on the map and in the deeds of each of the lots and in the HOA document. The prohibited activities include A, cutting or removing of trees and harvesting of timbers will be prohibited except to B, the minimum extent necessary to remove trees and limbs which are dead, deceased, or dangerous. C, excavation or alteration of natural resources within the conservation areas, except for the construction, repair, maintenance, and all permitted uses as reserved by the grantor. D, construction of or maintenance of deer stands and other hunting related accoutrements. E, creation of any impervious roadway surfaces and roadway appurtenances, except as may be shown upon the final subdivision plat. F, storage of any vehicles, mobile home, truck, tractor, trailer, camper, boat, or any other vehicle, not repair thereof. G, placement, construction, or maintenance of wells, septic, reserve systems, drainage structures, roadway impervious surfaces, or other improvements affecting surface water or groundwater other than as permitted pursuant to the town of Rochester zoning law and or subdivision regulations and or as shown on the filed subdivision plat. H, prohibition of construction or placement of any permanent structure. I, placement or maintenance of ashes, trash, rubbish, garbage, yard debris, waste oil, petroleum products, toxic substances, hazardous material, fill material, or any sightly or offensive materials. J, conservation areas will be conservation areas will be managed in accordance with sound and generally accepted soil and water conservation practices. No pesticide, herbicide, inorganic fertilizer, or other chemical treatments for land, vegetation, or animals will be used unless it is done in accordance with applicable laws and regulations and will not contaminate any water body. K, leg hold, conibear implements, and trapping of all kinds are prohibited in the conservation area. L, use of all terrain vehicles, motorcycles, snowmobiles, mini bikes, and any motorized vehicles will be prohibited for use upon the conservation areas. Okay, back to the specific.
I know. I think A and B are one,
Yeah, I think so too.
so it'll be one less.
Yeah.
Okay,
We gotta be reading letter. Do you want me to do that, Stacy?
I can do it.
Why don't you change this so I know?
I need it.
No, I'm not. I'm not sure I've got it in the format I can edit.
I have it, I can do it.
Okay.
Thank you.
back to specific number 8, is that correct?
Yeah.
Specific condition number 8. The above referenced conservation area shall be delineated on the plan/plat to be signed by the planning board chair and shall be marked in the field using property markers as delineated in the map set. Number 9, a road reclamation block on sheet 5 must be added. Number 10, a note on sheet 2 of 5 needs to be changed. Unauthorized road needs to be abandoned, end quote, from quote, existing dirt lane to be abandoned, end quote. 11, performance bonding documentation has been provided by the applicant and has been referred to the town board for final review and approval. Such approval must be completed prior to planning board chair signature of final plan/plat. Number 12, the applicant shall comply with any and all comments from the town of Rochester Highway Superintendent and the Airport Fire District and or the town of Rochester Fire Inspector, as well as the town of Marlborough highway superintendent. Condition 13, the applicant shall present a final subdivision plan / plat for signature.
You know what, somehow this dropped out. But there's no reference to the RMA,
Oh, yeah, you're right.
that might have been my fault. But, so let's add that.
Was referenced into.
Number 5.
Is it fine?
Yeah, and fine.
Right. Thank you. Yes, thank you. Okay,
All right.
start here.
The town of Rochester Planning Board further grants authority to the chairman to certify that these conditions have been met, at which time the chairman is authorized to sign and date the plat without further resolution by the planning board. This final subdivision approval shall expire 180 days from this approval date unless all conditions are satisfied and certified as completed. This period may be extended for 2 additional 90-day periods upon application to and approval by the town of Rochester Planning Board. Effective approval, number 1, the owner shall file for signature and certification in the office of the Ulster County Clerk 6 approved paper plats, and 1 Mylar plat copy bearing the chairman's signature and any other related documents within 62 days from the date of the chairman's signature, or such approval shall be deemed to expire without further notice in accordance with New York State Town Law, Section 276. Number 2, the owner shall have the responsibility to return 4 Ulster County Clerk certified copies of this filed plan / plat and any other related documents to the planning board within 30 days of such filing. The applicant, upon submitting 4 final plan / plat maps signed and stamped by the county to the planning board, will also submit a PDF of the final plan / plat map to the planning board. Draft resolution was prepared by the chairman and or town planner, was read and discussed as needed by the planning board in a public meeting at a time and a place of adoption.
And then, does the applicant have any questions or comments? Good, all right. So, I'll entertain a motion, the board. We good?
I'll make the motion.
Dave Roberts makes the motion, second. Hans. Adopted tonight, 4/27 by the following vote. All in favor?
I,
Chair votes aye, nay, 0, and two absences. Okay,
thank you very much.
we're done.
Thank you.
One quick question. Did you get any response from the town board as far as the bond or anything like that? Or did we reach out to them?
I'll let you know.
Okay, all right, thanks, Stacy.
Yep.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
So we meet again. On another project.
Sooner than later.
Okay,
Rick, I know we talked earlier today about the larger maps.
okay, so,
I've produced some smaller maps. People to look at.
all right, so, obviously this is for Stone Circle. We don't like maps coming in at the last minute. The map came in quite a while ago. It was a detailed topographical map showing the location of the sound
Receptors, yeah.
receptors. And I told them, you gotta get the board a bigger map, bring something to the meeting. So that's what he brought tonight in order to be able to see.
Because the map that was submitted just was property line to property line, you didn't see any to pop outside.
Didn't see the topo.
Right.
Yeah, or.
So I'm hoping that's what we have here.
Well, there's 2 smaller versions here. One is actually, we did add some of the buildings, so you can have copies for everybody here. Yeah. Yeah. So this is just a different version from what was spent.
So you're giving us each 2?
It is, but it's smaller thing.
One's a blow up.
So Bill, you're giving us 2, are they different scale?
Yes, so the one that was on top was made today to show the actual buildings.
Okay.
Most of the buildings, these buildings were located using an aerial image. So some of the ones obscured, the trees may not be on there, but it does show the majority of buildings. And that scale is correct. Then the second map was a smaller version of what we actually sent the board before.
So, for,
Scaling.
right, but this isn't labeled, so the first circle is half mile and then,
The second circle,
Yeah,
second
it's not
circle, it's not labeled, no, yes.
All right, so what we wanted to do tonight was to confirm the location of the sound receptor sites. I know Helena has been all over this with Caleb as to what would be appropriate, so I wanted to get that done. I also wanted the applicant to, or to talk about, Dave, you'll be helpful here. Make the referral, have the board agree to make the referral to the historical preservation commission. And then any other updates of other material that you're preparing, if you have any other updates for us, that'd be great. I don't think the board has anything more than that. This is an important step to get the sound study and the locations for those receptors done. So if we can accomplish that tonight, we've made some progress on this.
Yeah, I hope we discuss that first.
Okay, so,
And we did have a site meeting today with several board members as
Okay.
well. And so
so if anybody from the board has any comments as a result of the site meeting, to share with those who are going out tomorrow, that'd be great. So, Caleb, you want to start, with the,
It's mud.
it is.
it's muddy? Okay,
Bring clippers,
Or
What
is
is-
it Shetty?
sorry.
clippers or machete.
Do you want to start with the sound receptor sites?
Yeah, so the fire separate sites, I know the previous meeting we were at, we talked about this, locations. Previously I had 3 locations shown and we added several additional ones on top of that. Currently, I do have a list here. First one is some of the closest neighbors on a towpath there. It's in the northwest corner of the property near several adjacent homes. 2 is in the parking lot for the Deep Hole Sanctuary. 3 is along Towpath Road. It's near the closest neighbor to the site. 3, which is actually really close to Deep Hole itself as well. And then number 4 is on the western property closest to the proposed building. 5, we had at the north property line by the old canal there. And then 6, we were asked to have a receptor up on Rock Hill Road, which is definitely the closest clustering of residential homes near to the site. And the only one I haven't been to yet today was number 5, and so I made a point of walking down there specifically to see, because Helena had said maybe about moving it up the hillside. Because where it's currently located probably looks to be maybe an old
It's either a
Or-
remnant of an excavation or
Yes.
the D&H canal, and all I'm asking for the board, if you look at a relief map or these contours on the larger map. It's in a hole, and all I ask is that it just be brought up to the 250, between the 250 and 260 elevation. With number 5.
and I don't, after being down there, I don't see any issues with that, moving it up there.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I don't, and I did follow up with technical staff on
Okay,
the appropriateness of having that there.
yeah, no,
So, you know,
but I.
and then one. There's a property line there, so. I guess I can give a little. on that.
But that's the one we wanted, it's close, those are some of the closest neighbors, and then-
Right, I just wanted it up a little. But it's not in a hole like. with
No,
5.
Yeah, exactly, that does look like it was probably a quarry for the canal at some point.
Oh. I can wait for it.
All right, so is the board okay with the moving of number 5?
Yeah, no, I think that's good. We spoke about
Yeah, we spoke about it this
Okay.
today.
And you saw the actual,
And I agree with Elaine's, when it's something that was very astute.
so I'm confused by number 6. That's not on the property, right?
I believe Jennifer was the one who actually asked for us to put it on Rockville, I thought.
No, I did.
Really? Yeah, okay,
Okay,
all right.
sorry,
All right.
and I think Jennifer also had the same idea, and most of us, were talking about it, whoever was with Dave and Peter. It's basically because noise is going to go up. Don't know, it's just a good data point to have, you have a lot of residences over there, we're just. to be
Okay.
thorough and to capture what you're proposing to the neighborhood, that's all.
So how are you gonna
Just
accomplish-
Point out that I fortuitously met the owners of that site. That house, number 6, and I'm hoping that having met them and just saying, you know, be in your interest to have a sound receptor there, that they'll go along with it. I have not spoken to them about it, because I didn't know for sure what you all wanted, but
So it
I'm
sounds,
just gonna trust that it's in everybody's interest to test the sound up there and that they will do that.
well, it sounds like a good idea, but you'll have to get the
Yeah.
opposite landowners,
Right, we'll have to get that, but as you pointed out today, your property line does extend there, so it's really, I mean. Actually, to get to where your property line is on the other side of the creek, it's a lot easier to take getting that rock hill. Right?
Oh,
If I'm-
it's easier to access from Rock.
From, that's exactly right, as opposed to going to your property line down slope.
Yeah.
Elena, assuming there's something that had happened. Person says, no, you can't come on my property, where do you guys, you do it on?
Then it would be on the property
Okay.
line,
Yeah, so it's actually
on
It's a
that
deep-
side of the creek.
the default property, not Spirit Circle, right? So.
okay? Everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
All right, good. Anyone,
And thank you for, even though it was last minute, thank you.
Yeah, no,
You went through a lot of points, but yeah, I
You know, today.
guarantee you.
David, on code with respect to the Historic Preservation Commission. There's no specific documents that are mentioned in the code as to what needs to be delivered to them. But in the past, when we've done this, we've gotten the latest maps. We've given the latest maps, the narrative. And do you remember what else?
Well, they were interested in the. But the building.
What the building
Building
looks like.
design, yeah.
Right,
Which is the primary function.
right.
I mean, it's an interesting, I mean, I just want to say from our site visit this morning, the building is really sensitively located. I mean, it's, and you're not going to see it from a public road. Anything, I don't, I mean, you may see it, they may get seasonal views from the, you know, the road above. I don't know, you'd have to be looking for it. It's my sense. So, you know, it's unusual in that sense. It's
I think it would be,
in the middle.
would be visible from the property to the west, right, the OSI property.
So is it so well shielded?
But
Yeah.
but I mean, you, it's the same elevation, you're correct, but there are a number of trees that are between. There's some large pines, there's a pine grove.
I'm looking at a map that shows vegetation, and if you're standing on the border of that property, you'll definitely see it. From where we were today.
The roof line, I would imagine. I don't know about the lower elevation stuff.
So
I mean,
Peter, were you there today?
Yes,
Okay, so Peter and Davey were there, so
and Helena.
it was shielded by conifers or not?
There's the line of cedars along the towpath road that I think they're intending to keep. There's kind of a little meadow area for the house site, and I agree with Dave where it is located. Is very sensitively done. And I think it's a good location for it. I do think that we, even though the property next door, I do think it would be visible from there, but there's nothing on that property right now, but
All right,
I don't think we can just say it's not gonna have any impact, we don't know.
Yeah, no, but, I mean, I think that's worth mentioning, you know, when it's sort of heard is that. You know, it's sort of, it's not as if it's right on the street.
Right.
okay. So Mike, I saw you making notes about what we're gonna need to send to the Historical Society. So we need the latest map showing the location. We need the architecturals. 3D or side view, top view, both sides. Narrative, we haven't, we need that.
Yeah.
Dave,
Some indication as to materials, right?
good, yep.
Yeah, I suppose, I don't.
I remember the materials that you talked about. It was soundproof / fireproof,
Light clay straw, that's the
okay. So we can get
plan.
the colors, the material, the colors. The color scheme of what's actually gonna be used.
This reference to the Historic Preservation Commission is because it adjoins a historic hamlet area, right?
Right.
Right, but also we should make note that the property does adjoin D&H Canal. Property on the,
Okay.
along the Rondo that exists between the Rondo and the property.
Right, well, that's the feature that's within proximity.
Yeah.
The canal's on the National Register.
Right. But I think it's also, it triggered because of the
The
hamlet,
district
the
is
district, yeah. It's close.
next door, right?
Yeah.
There is, however, no possibility of being seen from the canal.
No,
I guarantee you there's.
it's not a visual thing, it's
Visual.
not a visual thing, it's a proximity to it. There's historic register, so they just need to be notified.
But it won't visually impact them for sure. If it's possible that it can be seen from the OSI land, I'd be surprised, but it is possible. And anyway, we'll give you that info.
So Mike, if we can get,
The secret docs do, Mr. Chairman?
I don't think that they don't need to see the document, no. I think what we gave, the list we gave
Yeah.
you is sufficient.
We got it.
As soon as you get those to us, if you get them to Stacy,
One of the things that we discussed in the field today was that the structure may be lower. So. And you know, when we're discussing visual from the properties, that would, you know.
That's under current.
Yeah,
current
so
discussion. So I have
I
my,
just want the rest of the board to know that you were
Yeah.
contemplating that, and I mean, maybe once you come up with final. Elevation, a couple of rudimentary line of sight. Profiles should be sufficient, what do you guys think?
I know the architectural pamphlet that was, it had some of those
Yeah.
line of sights in it, but yeah, blueprint, I mean,
But
right now.
especially since you're contemplating
we love.
lowering the roof line.
whatever you give us, if that's your final, fine. If you're gonna change it and it goes higher, we gotta go back to them.
No, he's going lower.
If you're gonna make it lower,
Okay.
The discussion is actually then bring the roof down itself, but also in elevation, we're talking about bringing, the grading. Originally, we had talked about maybe having a walkout incident, but that's been kind of taken away. In the essence that the main portion of the building, we want to be a slab on grade. So we actually want to lower it, so the foundations aren't as.
Okay.
And we're also looking at the living roof right now, which is like a 212 pitch instead of a 5 or 712 pitch, so it will bring the roof down and lowering the walls. So all that's with my builder and architect and in the thick of discussions of this. So we're a little.
you get us the
Get it
package.
as quickly as it's.
So I entertain a motion for the board to refer this to Historic Preservation Commission with the materials that I just asked them to provide us with.
I'll make that motion.
I'll
Peter,
second it.
Dave seconds,
Aye.
all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Chair votes aye. Caleb, Dave Church had provided you with a write-up of all the things that we're gonna need.
Yep.
It was,
I know he sent it back a while ago, I know.
Right,
We
2
didn't,
months
I know we
ago.
haven't really answered all that stuff.
so to move this project along, everything that's in there needs to be done.
And we owe you a
Okay.
response letter. to the-
There's a lot of stuff you owe us, so.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna keep track of it, except if it's missing. But you know what you need to,
No, I do know there's an outstanding letter and we do need to respond to that. You know, I know we're trying, you know, we wanted to get the sound receptor kind of done and so then we can schedule that. At the next meeting. I don't remember the specific dates, but
Did you say May 26th, May 29th?
that's. Maybe.
what'd you say, Helena?
They had mentioned a couple of dates for the ambient noise monitoring.
I think it was May 22nd.
I
First,
better-
22nd, I put it on.
Helena, we're not gonna be there. Right.
No, but it's
Okay.
good to know because we
Okay.
asked
They,
for
they,
it to check.
they had
It's
last.
gonna be on a
weekend
weekend and a weekday.
They had last weekend available and we didn't have the
You didn't have the final
approval.
location.
And then May. Yeah, it sounds the 29th and 30th.
Well, we need the
Okay.
final report. Okay. Greg, you haven't done a review of this, have you?
Yes, I have.
Oh, yeah.
A
Okay.
while ago, two
I have to
22.
read this.
Well, it sounds, all right, well, good.
Okay.
It sounds like, they're gonna be changing the, profile of the building.
And in
I
the
think-
parking lot,
Oh, in the parking lot?
Oh, we had talked about using the parking lot down yet.
Okay.
what else did we? There were a couple other things that were discussed in the.
I know, we had talked about, and I think even, we met with the contractor, David Lawrence, about possibly shifting the road one direction to avoid, it basically it's a drainage, the current drainage path that's there. All the drainage along the road, generally as we, because there is a steep embankment as you come down to the, as you go up the driveway, there's a steep embankment. And we're kind of going in between where that drainage path is, so we're talking about shifting that over a little bit, but we can, there's some work to do there too. To move that over and then probably get back, and it's gonna disturb more of the trees that we don't have located right now. So there's definitely a lot more.
All right, so Caleb, the point is,
Yeah.
all these changes that you're making, we need to let, Greg know. So he can incorporate them either in one more look-see at the whole project, engineering point of view.
Yeah.
So in a similar fashion that we did with some other projects, if you're making these changes, you gotta keep the board as well as, Greg in the loop.
Yeah, no, like a month ago, we did a site visit with, David Lawrence and then also, the builder, and we walked the driveway, similar to what we did today, and there was already discussion about trying to move it a little bit to work out the cut and fills a little better as well.
Okay. Will there come a point where it's gonna be, the height's gonna be, where the point, will it come a point where you'll be able to tell us we're done with the changes?
Right. Let's see.
Okay, so we need to know when you're done with your changes so that we can have Greg evaluate, does he need to do any more work on it?
So I think I had noted in this that it was more than an acre disturbance, so there will be a slip.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So, and I haven't
Okay,
seen that, so,
I think Greg
but I'm
also,
sure they want to get everything done, sorry.
no, go ahead.
I'm sure they want to get everything finalized before they do the swim.
Yeah, we
Otherwise,
did,
they're redoing.
we did preliminary calculations for the fire retention size and stuff like that, but that's not the full doc. That could work out the full.
okay.
Traffic study, I think we talked about that. So there's a great,
Oh, yeah, we did.
Yeah, so we did, it was probably a couple of weeks now since, we actually got engaged, with Craig Jennings. Put together a traffic study.
okay.
We haven't seen it yet. We'd probably reach out to Ken, put her out of that.
All right, anybody else from the board, Dave?
Historic Preservation Commission meets next, they meet on the third Mondays. Which would be 5:18 next. At the unique time of 2:30 in the afternoon.
Oh, very.
Mike seems to be chuckling.
That's a good time. 2:30 is a good time for it.
What an unusual thing. We've only gone there once. It's a new part of the code, right?
Yep.
So their complete focus on the one experience we had was on what the building's gonna look like.
Yeah.
It's not from where it's gonna be seen from. It's not gonna be other issues. It's what's the building gonna look like.
So
Is
if
that a
they-
meeting? I'm sorry.
No, I was
go
just
ahead.
gonna ask Dave, so if they're gonna change the elevation of the roof and lower it, then would this project be right to be referred to?
Well, you could
Historical
explain that
preservation?
by in a month.
Yeah, I don't know if we
What's the-
can, if I'll
Is there-
have it
is
by
there-
5:18 or not.
Is there a 2-week deadline?
But you
Should
could
we submit in 2
explain
weeks?
it. I don't know, I would suggest, it was a very rational conversation, the first experience, right? My suggestion is schedule them. go.
Yeah.
And if they wanna see you one more time, at least you're not behind. You schedule, because they only meet once a month at most. There's some months I don't think they even meet, right?
All right, so Stacy, could we reach out to them, and schedule to be on the agenda, their agenda for 5/18? And as I said before, if you have a finished packet, fine. If you make changes, you're gonna have to go back,
Yeah.
significant changes, so. And I think if you are making significant changes, you don't have it ready for 5/18.
You can let
Doing
me know.
shadow figures on a wall isn't gonna work with them, right? You know, it's moving this way and that way, so. You gotta show us you gotta show them what it looks like, they're not engineers.
But there's an architect.
There's an
There is an architect, thank you.
You know where they meet, their
I
meeting?
think at
Well,
the
they typically
museum.
meet in the historic, the museum, but they've moved to here when they had. Because technically
think
it would
the
be a
museum.
public, it could be seen as a public discussion about an applicant. So they've got to be accommodating. The museum is,
The last one that we did here. So
it's likely to be here if it works.
if it works, so we need to find out if it's. We don't have to do a public notice, we didn't do a public notice, did we?
It's whatever their meetings are.
Oh, they have to do that. We don't have to
Yeah,
worry
I
about it.
don't know that they do that or not do
I
that.
don't know.
I mean, their schedule's on the town website, so they must publish it once a year.
Okay,
I will note the primary consideration in the code is referring you to historic design elements. So you're gonna have to explain, this is not gonna look like a farm in 1880s farm structure. That's what they're pushed to advise on.
They look a little more like a 15 or 1600.
Right.
Indigenous.
But I don't think it would seem very rational.
Yeah.
Times we've been there.
okay. Anything else from the board on this project at this
More
point?
commercial, we were gonna talk about commercial.
Thank you. At the last meeting, last time we were here, Philip, you and I spoke about this after that. We talked about commercial events. And Dave Church put together a description of commercial events, how it changed within the code. And that's on Munich Collab
Okay.
onto your site, so you can read it. So at some point, I don't know that we're ready to do that yet, but we need to talk about the impact of commercial events as defined within the code are no longer available in any of the zones. And how does that affect what you believe your intended uses are gonna be, or your intended uses are gonna be?
I'll just say, I mean, I think it'd be good for a discussion with Mike and Dave to have maybe initially. But I think we've been clear from the beginning that it's for ritual and dance. It's a conference and education center with ancillary occasional possibility of other types of ritual and dance. That's the only thing that will be there. Music, dance, ritual, participatory events. I think there's some questions around when you're saying this kind of ritual and not that kind of ritual. I'm not going into business for something that is not my passion, which is the dance and ritual that I've expressed. And it will need to pay its bills, hopefully in perpetuity. And so some kinds of those kind of events. There's a possibility of ancillary weddings, and I think I'd like to. We have a 75-person limit. This is a small location. This is not not in Arrowwood. This is not 1,000 people coming with big speakers and big electrification. And we're gonna have sound studies that I'm expecting will assure everybody that nobody is gonna be bothered by this, and that's my desire, my commitment, my intention. And so if it needs, I get the commercial, I mean, anything can be called an event, but I don't think that makes it a commercial event specific.
So there's two terms in the code. One is commercial event, and it's in the code definitions, and there's an actual definition for it, but it's no longer in the code, the
Right.
actual provisions. The other definition, which is what you are, right, is education and conference center.
Yep.
That definition is in the code also. So what I invite you and your attorney to do is to look at both of them. You can only ascribe in this use to the one and figure out, we're gonna need something in writing from you guys as to what you're proposing, what kind of stuff you're gonna do. It's very clear what you can do in education and conference centers. And at some point, present that to this board, because that'll be part of the decision. If you need advice, Mike, you could certainly call Dave Church. And I invite you to look on Muni Collab for the document that he put together, page and a half. Where he describes what is and what isn't, and also describes an approach that could be taken, not to stretch the definition, but to implement what you're trying to do. All right, so it's pretty clear in those two definitions, what's in, what's out. Then we just invite you to explain to us what you're gonna do, the limits that you're going to apply in terms of people, in terms of sound, in terms of instrument, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And you're gonna have a sound study that you have to ascribe to, so I just mentioned it, just to keep you up to date on.
Yep.
We're gonna be looking for that.
Okay, thank you. I do, there is in the initial, I don't know, that's technically the initial narrative that we submitted, there was an explanation as well. So that's there, but we can flesh that out.
Well, I think it'd be useful.
This issue.
I think you're gonna find it useful for
Yeah.
Mr. Moriallo to flesh it out with Dave.
Yeah.
In order to satisfy this board when we do the decision. That we've got it all tightened up. Okay, and you understand what's allowed, what's not allowed. Okay? The board have anything else? No, we're good.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay, so we can do the sound study now and that's all.
Do you want to see anything else? I mean, I know where we're gonna move that receptor map. I could update the map and send it to
Would be
you.
good,
And yeah,
especially if you're gonna be doing the ambient monitoring in May.
But we
Is
don't
that-
need to come back for any further.
At the-
No.
well,
Just
okay.
submit it and put the revision date.
as we said when you first started, you got a lot of work to do, and you still have a lot of work to do.
I feel like we've done a lot, but there's
But
still a lot
you'll
more
make
to
some
do.
Thank
progress.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mike.
Thank you for
Thanks, Mr. Gagnon.
Yeah.
Thank you, Calvin.
We'll see something, we'll see some more people.
I'm gonna ask for a 10-minute break. So we'll reconvene in at 5 minutes to.
I did have a call about
But I need to-
I don't think.
How are you? Fine, good. Skiing season finally done? Not, is skiing season finally done?
Yeah, I'm supposed to remind you of those.
I
benefits,
think that's,
two
I
of which
mean,
are
the
free.
hardcore would go, if go into there some, well, it's limited party time, yeah.
That was probably.
We'll run, have a drink.
It was in the fall, I think, because I remember that.
Or go, fly somewhere. Yeah.
Okay, definitely.
Yeah.
I've parts of Canada. That was the travel out west.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so who's
Seen people in Quebec, but it's been pretty warm. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so.
I can resend it to you.
How you doing?
Okay, yeah.
I think that I said. I should definitely.
So.
Stacy, you'll send it.
I'll resend it. to you, so you can have it.
Thank you, Stacy. Really, it's very, it's good there. Okay, so we just want to listen to the whole.
He's got a civil rights.
State
Which they did, but I don't know, I think it's absurd.
Okay.
So.
Just to listen.
Please, yeah, to use Dave's issues. You know, the thing is, Jim's still on the years, like, even though apparently with Jim's. I don't know if that's been evidence.
But at least, okay, at least give you something.
So James, it's nice. How often we have a day?
I'm calling the business on that. There's no point in being. They've already been charged a lot of money, no point in being.
Then you have to provide. They close out.
They were in quite a different place than you said.
We go low.
I was sure. I was there. But my point was this. You get in with someone.
They would go and spend. The county. I mean, I knew they go look at their incomes. They would look at. But like I told you, we were seeing even permit. I know we've seen last year, this year. We saw it one from some year. Last year.
But at some point, you just got some of the water, because the wind and film.
Well, I can't follow this and keep talking about the phone.
So what they say.
Stopped about. The only one I saw was. Simple.
For a second.
So
if I need to, I'll just.
So the camp, I don't know. I would assume the camp, they want like settled soon. Because they probably already paid the registrations. The resort.
Yes, go on the other side.
Still looking at, well, if they want to use. Dining hall. Whatever was it. One is still right away. No,
Doesn't come from that. I think it's like. The key question we have now is they need.
Did you send them the,
Why am I outside? I've been inside this building the other day. I wanted to put it outside.
It's okay.
I wouldn't know.
Yeah.
I've been in this building for like 12 hours.
Whether they positive.
You for 12 hours.
They need.
Well, this is to be able to bring 48 months and to bring her home and this work done dinner and come back. So I left for like an hour.
Wow. Wanna go run around the parking lot?
Yeah, you want a race?
I'm pretty broken. I can't run.
It's minimal.
I think that's a great idea.
I'm gonna get a solid market. They did. It was all 550, 570, till he wrote that memo.
Are you going on the site visit tomorrow?
Yeah.
Wear boots?
Now they're 70.
Wear good shoes or you're gonna be walking through multiple roads.
They just. It's either a work site or they eventually. And so then they just tell you like,
Yes.
residents.
Had you been walking on that drainage, blue ribbons?
Yeah, but I read it.
Okay, so we said that we're out telling them they should move it over. Why do you want to put?
Right.
So you did
I
the.
think I knew about that, but I didn't. I missed that. It's still. I knew about it.
No, that's okay. Once you get through it really wasn't. You get through that and then you get up on the top of that platform.
When I was questioning.
Really, I'm surprised to see. No. No. It's the street cutting.
Somebody wants to try to think that.
You know.
Then you get.
You have that,
The next thing you know, you just. Just talking. No deal, open in the rains, he doesn't say anything. So I wouldn't raise. Probably ask him to find it. If we should have his comments and. Just look at it. So it's in meetings. It's a control.
That trucks you have to go speedway, trucks are almost.
all right, Jeff, we're gonna get started.
It's more than audible. So you have to, specifically model for that. Hello, Mark, how are you?
So Jeff, are any of the applicants, the actual applicants here? I know you're the representative. Oh, in the back, okay. Mr. Treen, I recognize you from the last time you were here. So you came all the way up from DC or?
I did, but I do have a mom in.
I know, you told me that.
Vernon, Jersey,
So
so.
did you come to see her and then thought you'd stop here, or did you come here and you're gonna go see her? No? Right. And this must be Mr. Millsbaum.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So there is no public hearing here for the public. I think you all know that. So I just want to get that out of the way. And we'll be here until we're exhausted and we drop one by one, for as long as it takes to, for the applicants to say what they want to say. Just by way of an update to remind the board and also the public. We published a, what's called an FEAF Part 3 2 meetings ago. I'm sorry, 1 meeting ago, and also a draft resolution for POS deck. The FEAF Part 3 responds to the Part 2. The Part 2, the seeker form Part 2, has 18 questions in it with numerous subcategories. And we identified which of the 18 categories apply to this project that were either moderate to large impacts. And those categories were primarily environmental categories, whether it be water, groundwater, septic, traffic, noise, odor, light, things of that sort. And there were 7 items that we identified as being moderate to large. That was done in the Part 2. The Part 3, which was done, then elucidates the reasons why we believe that these are moderate to large impacts. And then from there, it's up to the board, and we did prepare a POS deck, resolution for a POS deck. It's up to the board to decide whether or not the environmental impacts are controllable or so small as to warrant a negative deck, or are large enough to warrant a POS deck. And we have a POS deck ready, waiting in the wings, if you would. The applicant knows that. The applicant has seen everything. I think you've had all the material for 2 or 3 weeks. And they prepared information to us, either countering or supplying additional information, which might cause us to change our mind in terms of the POS deck. And for the board, there's 3 or 4 main new items that were received from the applicant. And correct me where I missed some of them. One of them was a 6 to 7 page document from Mr. Millspawn, who's their engineer, which goes through each one of the items that we identified in the Part 3 and answers each one of them. I think I know everybody has read them, so that was one document. There was an email from the County Department of Health having to do with the gallons per day per person that the County Department of Health indicated would be the number that the applicant could use in pursuing their project. And I'll comment on that later, comment on all of them later. So that was the second item. Third item was a document that Jeff sent me last Thursday or Friday, which laid out the occupancy of how many people were in each of the rooms. And there were a set of rooms of the 126 rooms. There were a set of rooms where they purported that those rooms could hold 8 people per room, and the remaining rooms could hold 4 people per room. And that summed up to 770 people, so give or take 765, 770. And there was a 4th document, which escapes me right now. Maybe you can tell me in a second which one I missed. In addition to that, the board certainly has all the documents going back a year. So to about this time last year when we really started getting into this project. So I'm not going to comment on anything that you've sent us at this point. I'll let you proceed to talk with respects to the FEAF. We're here to listen. We're usually here till midnight. So we don't serve coffee, however. So we're here to listen. And I know that we're going to have a lot of questions and a lot of comments of our own when we're finished. Do you want to add anything legally in terms of the FEAF and the POS deck that I may have Mopped up.
No, but.
Okay.
But now.
I'm ready for the bar exam. Okay, who's first?
I'll lead off. So, thank you again. We are phoned back here from the February. Again, I know that you mentioned, but, to my left is our engineer, Mark Millspath, Sterling Engineering. To my right is Eric Train, from Stozer Associates and Associates. I want to start by just saying I was a little disappointed with the tone of the letter we received today from your engineer. It seemed to me, quite frankly, to be very adversarial in nature. We tried to comply and respond to everything that's been said here. I think my client, as we go through our comments today, has gone overboard in attempting to respond to all of the concerns, including the height of the building, the length of the building, how the building is situate. And after a year of being before this board, to first be told our application is incomplete, seems a little, quite frankly, adversarial, as I mentioned. So I want to give you a brief history as far as we see this on this project. So my client, before he even buys the place, goes into your building department and says to the building department, we run a voice camp, and we're considering buying Grove Ranch, and we want to make sure that we meet your criteria and that the use is allowed and authorized. In response to that application, which is required under the Rochester law, we got back a letter that basically said this is not a change of use, and you are authorized to proceed with the operation of a camp at that site. We then, in furtherance of that, following purchase, made several applications for building permits, all of them involving the use of this property as a camp, all of them involving inspections by your building department, and all of them resolved with the appropriate CO or CC that's required after doing that. Again, there was complete knowledge of what we were doing there, that we were using the camp. Again, we got a letter indicating that there was no change of use. And we then went, as we were supposed to the Board of Health and the DEC. DEC accepted an assignment of the permit that the prior user had, and the Board of Health reviewed our applications and let us operate for 2002, 2003, 2004, 2005, and in 2005.
What?
2025.
Jeff, did you get written permits from the health department?
Yes, I'm sure. We got, yes, of course, yes.
Well, Jeff, we've been talking to you for more than a year. Is it possible for us to get those permits?
They were submitted, right? Yeah.
We have permits. We have permits from 2024, I think.
That's the permit 2024?
Believe you gave one more? Yeah. So in any case, in 2025, there was an application made. We clearly specified in the application to the Board of Health how many people we were going to have, and that permit was approved, and that's how many people we had at the camp at that time. Somewhere in the range of 740, 760, but it was within the application.
That application we haven't seen.
We can submit that application.
And that's one of, I'll let you keep talking, but that's a huge crux of the matter that
Sure.
we need to deal with, this number 770.
So in any case, having gotten a commitment from Town of Rochester, having gone to the Town of Rochester Building Department, getting our building permits without any requirement that we come before this board, not until we decided to build a more significant addition to the camp, and it was our first significant addition to the camp, did the building department say, at this point, you should go to the planning board for review of your new building. And that was started about a year ago. The new building was a kitchen and a dining room. And quite frankly, that's really all this should be. We've done every step along the way before that. Getting the approval from the planning board, from the building department for the use. And thereafter applying for any additions or modifications we had done to the property. So what we should be looking at, and this board should be looking at, is this building. Beyond that, and that includes, quite frankly, calling this a type 1 action when it really is an unclassified action. Never seen a building of this nature being called a type 1 action. So you're going far beyond just the building, and again, you're going back to the creation of this property as a camp, religious camp, that was already reviewed and approved in the manner in which the process within this town requires. So at this point, we now come forward before you. We've given you a report. You said to us the building initially was too long. We broke up the size of the building. You said the building the footprint was too big. We reduced the footprint. Our latest thing now, and I believe, Mr. Chairman, early on, you had recommended this. We now turned the building. So now, instead of being lengthwise as you drive down the road, you only see one side. Most of the trees that would have been removed as a result of putting it lengthwise are now going to stay in place. Screening, there's very little you're going to be able to see from Cherrytown Road right in front of it, let alone from 4455 miles away. So I believe that we've complied with everything. The Board of Health, again, knows how many people we have. They've done their analysis. They have other camps within the area where they have the same amount of gallons per day that we are using. And that is specific for camps and should not be related to, I know that you now submitted a letter from a school that was had been applied for and really has nothing to do with this application. So I believe that we are covering everything you've asked for. Again, no increase in the population. We've now removed the basement. No increase in traffic. In fact, there will be a reduction in traffic because we're going to have larger storage facilities in this new building. I think there was one other thing I just wanted to, I just wanted to again go through the process. When we were here in February, we were told the following, that we'd be getting a letter from the planning board clerk, followed shortly by the proposed recommendations from this board for part 3 that we would then be able to respond to and then work with you before the next meeting. All right, after a couple of calls, I did get the letter from the Rochester clerk, and I appreciate that. But we didn't get anything regarding part 3 for almost 2 months after that meeting. And then when we did get that, we got shortly after that, we get a proposed positive deck without ever looking at any of our comments. And then when I proposed that we meet with your professional staff, we were told, sorry, the board will not allow you to meet with our professional staff. I mean, I don't understand how we went from a meeting in February in which we were going to work together to see what we could mitigate and see how we can resolve that to a point where everything was done without our input and without even allowing us to meet with your professionals at our cost. So
I'll take it.
with that said, I will now turn myself over to Mr. Trent.
Let me,
Hang on,
Respond.
hang on. We got a lot of things I want to challenge you on in terms of your facts. First of all, and I appreciate your tone, which is very calm. If there was any tonal assumptions on your part and the part of our engineer, I think if you've met him, you know him, he doesn't run around like a screaming Minnie. And so if there was any tone that you took from his comments, I apologize on behalf of him. It could reflect maybe the sense of the board that, you know, we are as frustrated as you are, but for different reasons. Our reasons are we don't seem to be getting the same story from either the same persons, or we get different stories from different persons as to some of the things you spoke about. So let's first talk about the 550, 770 people, or 570, 765 people, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm reading from the initial narrative from this project that was delivered to us on March 10th or 11th of 2025. And I'm going to read the paragraph and a half for the record. And it's the category called existing permitted capacities. The facility operates year-round with a temporary residence TOR permit from the Ulster County Department of Health. Facility code, yada, yada, blah, 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 permit number, blah, 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 blah. And is permitted for a capacity of 126 rooms and units. Additionally, a children's camp permit is held for the summer months, allowing for a capacity of 570 people. See attached in the submittal. Then it goes on to say, as stated, the site has a capacity of 126 units / rooms, accommodating up to 570 people. Doesn't talk about 770, 765. It talks about 126 rooms accommodating 570 people, which would suggest to me to jump ahead with something that has been said before, where you couldn't possibly have that number of campers without some adults supervising them. That's not what this says. This says the 570, and we took it to mean from this time last year to mean that that was campers and attendant people, whoever those attendant people were. Doesn't say 570 plus 220, doesn't say anything other than 126 units and rooms accommodating up to 570 people. That's what we've been working with. And we suddenly found out, and that was in March rather, of last year. And then we suddenly found out on November 17th of last year in a document that came from Sterling, Mr. Millsbaum, your company, Sterling Associates. The number 770 popped up. We found that in a meeting that we were having with members of the board and our engineer and members of your team. And we questioned that. Where did this number come from? It's the first time we've ever seen that number. We've been working with 550. First of all, working with 550, we had said back in April of last year, after getting this, that we would waive the hydrogeologic study because you purported that 550 was the number that you've always had. And you would not use any more water. Okay, our code allows us, and we had advice not to ask you to do the hydrogeologic study. Well, if in fact you are going to have 770, right now we're working with 550. If you're going to have 770, that notion of no hydrogeologic study is out the window. Because you told me in the past you had 550. Now, I don't believe you've ever had 550 up there the last 3 years that it's been operating. And you're going to need to provide us with proof that there's been 550 people there. Rosters, something. I don't believe you had 550 in 2025, 2024, 2023. And I don't know how many months you were working or you were operating in 2022. I think it's been significantly less than that. It's a new camp, and you were soliciting people from Brooklyn and Queens, young ladies, to come up there. You didn't have 550. But besides that, you gave us an application for 550. So let's hold that thought. The 36 gallons per day per person, 55 gallons per day per person, 75 gallons per day per person. These numbers have all been knocking around. When we did the FEAF, our engineer, along with some experts from the board who worked for the DEC and also work now for the DEP, came up with a number of 75 gallons per person per day. With the admission that with water saving devices, it could be 55 gallons per day. Now, they just didn't pull this out of the clear blue sky or out of whole cloth as you would. They pulled it out of the appropriate state book, and I'll let the experts tell me the name of it. It always escapes them, but they pulled it out of resources from New York State. And the specific category of use was called boarding school, which to our experts was the most applicable category to use. I've gotten nothing in that, or I've learned nothing from that email from Mr. Kazasser of the Department of Health that I got 3 or 4 or 5 days ago, which said 36 gallons. It's just 36 gallons. No reference to where that came from, 36 gallons per day per person. No references, nothing. Compare that. I know that you'll be using examples of other camps in the area as evidence that everything's hunky-dory. So I'm going to reference an email that we got, or actually a letter that we got from the same engineer from the county, William Kazasset, from May of last year, when we were working on a different project, very similar, if not exactly the same. A boarding school, a camp for young men, whatever, but it was going to be occupied in the same fashion that this is occupied. People were going to stay overnight. They were going to be fed. They would be washing their laundry, et cetera, et cetera. And I remember the quote that he had, which was, in my professional opinion, this is William Kazasset, in my professional opinion, the water needs of this facility are 55 gallons per day per person with water saving devices, not 36. So I don't know where he came up with 36. And
Same guy.
Same guy. We're gonna have to challenge, we will challenge that. Okay, and we'll challenge that through you to say, no, we're not accepting 36. It just doesn't hang together. Technically hang together. And we can have a robust discussion with the engineers about which code book is used to come to that number. And there are other things that we probably are not yet on the same page. SWIP, we already went through this with your applicant, that we need a SWIP. Period, full stop. And somewhere in one of the documents recent, we don't need a SWIP because it doesn't meet the 1 acre disturbance. We absolutely disagree with that you're going to need a SWIP. So there are some things we do agree with. We at least agree that there should be work done on the lighting, that everything has to be dark sky compliant. We can all agree to that. I don't know whether we agree yet on the need for a traffic study. You've made some very good points about the traffic study, so we'll have to talk about that. All of what I've just said is embedded in the FEAF. Now, I'd have to go back and check the records with Stacy to see when we got you the FEAF.
I think April 7th.
I thought it was in March sometime,
I think you got it in March. I think we got it.
beginning of April.
Yeah.
All I could say is we're trying to move as quickly as possible to accommodate your applicant. We did not want to meet with your experts, as I told you before, and part of that was, quite frankly, this board had a significant, not even a meltdown, but a significant, gave significant instructions to the chair in October of last year. After numerous meetings where maps came in the same meeting at the same time as the meeting, information was not provided, information was late, couldn't review it. They made it very clear to the chair that they didn't want me meeting with other members of the board and the applicant unless they gave approval for that, because of the frustration of trying to get our hands around this stuff. On that specific request, I polled the board over the weekend, whatever weekend it was, and six votes, no. We want everything to be done here in public at this point. And so that's the reason for that. It wasn't nobody pulling the rug. You didn't say that, but nobody's pulling the rug out of anybody. Yeah, from underneath anybody. We do need to move forward, right? Now a comment about Pod's debt. Pod's debt. What? Don't. Oh, okay.
We're not doing a POS deck. It's proposal.
I'm not saying that because I was gonna make a comment about what a POS deck is used for.
Yeah.
But I won't.
I actually wanted to speak to the POS deck issue.
I'm not finished. Okay. I'm not finished. And I was gonna turn it over to my attorney. Okay, so, well, maybe I am finished, but those are the things that we have been grappling with the specific items that I have given you, that we disagree with in terms of numbers. You're gonna have to do either a lot of convincing, or you're gonna have to come to our, side of what the facts are.
I have a couple of questions, yeah. First of all, just to be really clear. The type 1 designation for this project comes right out of the code. It's in black and white. I'll read it for you right now. This is in the aquifer protection overlay district, which is where you are. The following uses and activities when proposed partially or wholly within the aquifer protection district shall be designated as type 1 actions under seeker. B, any commercial mixed use or industrial use or activity with projected on-site groundwater withdrawals and or sewage disposal flows of over 1,000 gallons per day or more during any single 30-day period. Black and white, it's type 1 action. Just the way it is. I also want to point out that although you may have been surprised or shocked, we drafted a part 3, which has all the facts that you've discussed, that Rick discussed, that we've all discussed, that are important. Put it up on the internet, and you've had several weeks to comment on it. We also published a draft POS deck, but we haven't taken vote on it. We haven't scheduled a vote for tonight on it. I don't know what's going to happen in terms of a motion. You're here tonight. You can comment on it. You did submit a comment on it. The idea that we're taking this step without listening to you, without discussing it with you, is rhetoric. That's just simply not true. We've heard your presentation for a number of months, but even at that, we've published part 3 for everybody to see and for you to comment on. So the idea that this is somehow being, put past you without the opportunity for comment is not true. Also, what we're doing tonight is functionally the same as the meeting that you wanted. The only difference is that the whole board is here and the public is here. And frankly, that's the preferred way to move forward. We have had a couple of meetings with the applicants, not in public, and that is a concession which frankly should be somewhat limited, because the business that we're talking about is public business. And so the discussion that we want to have can be had right now, and that's exactly what we're doing tonight. And I have 2 questions for you. First of all, the reconfiguration of the building. What is the width along Cherrytown Road?
I think it's 150. It's 158. Will you confirm that?
I can.
Oh, Mark, that's it? 158?
I would have to pull the drawing up and measure it. I don't have the hard copy drawing with me.
So we don't know, as you said it tonight, we don't know what the width is along Cherrytown Road.
It shows on the draw.
I've seen the drawing, but I want to be able to express to the public and for ourselves. This was expressed in the part 3 as a critical factor in terms of that particular aspect of the environmental impact, which was the visual presentation to the community. I don't want to, I think it's great that you guys have worked on reconfiguring the building, but it's that particular statistic is actually of fundamental importance, and you need to know what it is. And it's frankly a little surprising that we're here tonight discussing whether or not the impacts have been mitigated. We just don't know what the answer is. Jeff, I got one more question.
Right.
There's a number of things in your statement. I want to boil it down to just one. There's clear, and the chair alluded to this, there's clearly a disagreement about the number of gallons per day per person that ought to be applied here. Your concern about a prospective POS deck or whatever your concern is it based on that disagreement, or is it based on something else? And to be clear about my question, if we were to decide on a technical basis that the gallons per day, the applicable gallons per day per person was somewhere north of, let's just say 40, so that the total use per day of the facility exceeded the speed limit. Let's just say that's the number we come up with. Are you still asserting that this board should not be looking at that as part of its declaration of significance?
What I'm asserting is that Board of Health is the expert in this area. And the Board of Health has determined it's 36, not 40, not 50. And they have the right to make that determination, and they make, if you'd like to contact them and
No, no,
challenge
so
them, that's
I
one
want to
thing.
be clear about
That's-
this. So what you're
that's my-
saying is it comes down to the number.
Right.
It's just, it's not like, and if it turned out that the number was higher for whatever reason, then that would we have a right to
Well,
look
if
at
the
that.
calculations are such that we don't have the capacity, then you'd be correct.
But that's
Okay.
that's not part of the POSDEC question. That's a broader question of this site use plan, because SECR lets you look at the change, the delta from the project. What is the project before us? It's the dining hall. It's not the camp. The camp's gonna be 770, whether this dining hall is there or not. What it lets you look at baseline, but only to calculate the delta, the change. And the change here only goes down. It's the same number of campers, but you have fewer, you said 3 sittings.
Do you have
for
any
dinner.
case law on that?
What's that?
Do you have any case law
On which?
on what you just said?
We can get you.
Yeah, you can look at the baseline, but it's, you look at the change, plenty
There
of
are cases
cases.
that hold otherwise.
I'm sorry?
There are cases that hold otherwise. I want to know what your case law is.
Well, not the cases I've been reviewing, but
Send it to me.
But for, the question is always in secret, what is this project that's before you going to cause? And the water should be off the table, the traffic should be off. the
So
table.
your assertion is we have no right to look at the water in the sewer.
You can look
as
at
part of
water
secret.
and sewer as part of the overall site plan. And you can look at it if there's a change, but I don't see any objective evidence that this dining hall will replace current dining.
So again, I
facilities.
want to ask the same question to you that I asked Jeff, because you didn't seem to like his answer. If the technical investigation here on gallons per day per person shows that the number is greater than you're asserting, if it shows that, let's say it's north of 40, so that the total use of the project is greater than 27,500 gallons a day, you're asserting that that's not a secret issue that we can look at.
So that's Jeff or
You,
secret.
I heard Jeff's answer.
Yeah. I believe that SECR looks at the change of the project that's being considered.
Boiling it down to the specifics here, we're in a very specific case. This is why I assume you're here, this is why we're here. If the technical review of the gallons per day per person, where you've asserted 36 gallons per day, and we have a host of other numbers that are way up above that. And if the answer turns out to be somewhere in the middle, whatever it is, let's just say it's 45. So that the total multiplied together gallons per day usage on this project is, let's just say, north of 30,000 gallons a day, when the Speedy's permit is for 27,550 gallons per day. Those are the facts I'm laying out before you now. These are very possible facts. Are you asserting that that is not a secret issue for us?
Based on my review of the case law, it is not.
Okay. That's gonna be our disagreement then. Oh, one more, when you.
Could I say?
I want to ask one other question. When you were here last time, you were talking primarily about RLUIPA and about I think you were also asserting discrimination laws under the federal and state constitution. Are you in any way asserting that this disagreement that we're having on the law is a RLUIPA issue?
Well, actually, it is, because the leading case in the Second Circuit on RLUIPA is Westchester Day School versus Amerenet. In that case, the district court ruled that a POSDEC under SECRA that was issued for arbitrary reasons was immediately challengeable in federal court. And the Second Circuit ultimately upheld held a RLUIPA violation from the denial of the approval for a expansion of a Jewish day school.
Well, so you say, I'll take a look at that case on the procedural issue of the POSDEC, but I was actually asking a different question. I'm talking about the substantive issue here of the distinction
Yeah.
between this board's concerned about, sewer and your position that we can't look at it. Is that a RLUIPA issue?
What RLUIPA looks at is overall, is there an action that is creating a substantial burden on religious exercise?
Right.
And one of the things courts do look at in what is a substantial burden, it's sort of a meaningful burden, it's also the process, was it arbitrary? Were rules followed, were normal procedures
If
followed?
this board looks into all of the gallons per day issues and determines that the gallons per day is not 36, but something else, and that therefore we want to look at the issue of the excess sewage discharges and what we would consider excess water, increased water discharges, is that an impermissible burden on religion?
It could be, yes, it could. It's a-
Well, you
it's
use the
a
word,
holistic-
you use the word arbitrary. I don't see anything that this board has.
What I'm saying is, if the board, instead of looking at what's going to change from this project, where, the height at which we've lowered, the visuals, we've turned it. But it's gonna look at things that are gonna be the same anyway, the water consumption is gonna be less from this project.
Dave,
because-
we've always been taught by you, or counseled by you, that on a project, on any project, we can look at the sum total of the impacts of an individual item. We can look at that individual item, the building being built, the cumulative effects on that entire site, since we're doing a site plan. We can take the cumulative effects of a new dining room with all the other effects of all the other changes that have been made and all the other things that have been done on the property.
Of course, it's right in the regulations.
Well,
I-
the gentleman seems to be saying something entirely different.
Yeah, well,
No,
that's what they have,
The
they have.
cumulative effect of
okay.
putting that building on can be reviewed, but it's the cumulative effect. You take away the building, whatever was there before is still there.
They're attempting to frame this whole issue in a very idiosyncratic and specific way to insulate themselves from a lot of other issues, and it's what we've been driving at here. I don't think I don't think a court's gonna buy it, I don't think anybody else is gonna buy it. I think the idea that they would, that they'd be angling for a neg deck on a permit that would legitimize a use of water that would be in excess of their Speedies permit, just take one issue. In an aquifer protection zone, I don't think any judge would agree with that as a matter of either seeker or RLUIPA. I understand where counsel's coming from. His job is to take whatever's on paper and frame it in the most advantageous way possible. We've drilled into what their arguments are. I think the board needs to do what it needs to do to assure, I think since this is a type 1 action, you're either gonna get a neg deck or a pos deck. There's no chance for a CND. The board will issue a neg deck if it is convinced that there is no that there either is no substantial adverse environmental impact, or that any substantial environmental impact is adequately mitigated. The mitigation for excess sewage discharges is to build a good septic system that covers it. That's not a difficult concept. If the board is not convinced, at whatever point, as we've been discussing things, submitting documents back and forth, if the board believes that more review and study is necessary, including of alternatives, the regulations require a pos deck. If there's any doubt, the regulations require a pos deck. When the board issues a neg deck, it's a certification to the community that there's going to be no significant adverse environmental impacts. That is flat out in the regulations. The idea, and look, there are softer regulations and there are harder regulations. With Mr. Treen's presentation, which I largely agree with originally, they were focusing on the questions of impact on the character of the community. These are sort of as I've explained to this board, that's sort of the red flag for religious discrimination. They're very soft issues. Why do they, we have a different impression of what you do, et cetera. When you talk about sewage discharges, when you talk about withdrawal of water from an aquifer, I mean, I'll look at the case law, I'll look at Westchester Day was you were raising for a procedural issue. I'll I'll look at whether sewage issues have ever been held to be religious discrimination, but I think where this board's gonna come out is that, well, if there's excess sewage going into the ground that your system won't cover, we're gonna go.
The bottom line is this, we've been in business for 4 years. We have a speedies permit. There's been no violations served on us by DEC. They've had no problems. There's been no showing of any violation. The Board of Health has established our water usage as they're required to do. And basically what you're saying is this board has the right to usurp the authority of the DEC and the Board of Health and their findings and make your own independent findings.
No,
I don't think that's
no,
correct.
we're not usurping anything. You have a speedies permit written in, I think, 2012 for 27,550 gallons a day. We're not usurping anything. We're trying to figure out whether the water discharges from this facility are greater than that or less than that. There's been no DEC finding that I know of to that extent in the last 4 years that your clients have been here or at any other time. As far as the Department of Health, I don't have the documentation you're talking about. I don't think they've looked at this question. If they do, you should send it to us because we've been talking about this for quite a while, including, again, tonight when you've had the draft part 3 for several weeks. If you had a finding that the current use is essentially equal to the proposed use and that it's less than the speedies, the allowed speedies discharge, send it to us because we don't have that right now. And we're trying to figure out what this is based on the best information. And at some point, the board's going to move forward. So we are listening to you. You do have this opportunity. Your engineer submitted a letter. We're looking at all of this very seriously, and we're looking at a very serious environmental issue. And we're going to move forward according to what SEQA requires. And Jeff, I hear your argument. And again, just for the board's information, Jeff is an attorney whose job it is to frame these issues as best he can for his client. And he and Mr. Trina are doing exactly that. But that doesn't make it right. Lawyers have different frames that they propose, and I'm proposing a different frame tonight. And that's where we're at. So,
And my response again is that this is not the first camp that has 35 or 36 gallons per day per camper, per user, per person. There are other camps that have the same findings in this county by the same Board of Health. So
Well,
this is not new math.
if the issue getting past what we've been talking about for the last 10 minutes, if we can get into the numbers, that's where we want to be. Whether it's 36 or 50 or 55 or 75 or whatever it is, if we can have an argument between the professionals as to those numbers, that's where we need to be. And if there's other camps, if they have the same characteristics, we can look at that documentation, which we do not have. And it turns out it's very similar to what we've got here. Whatever the parameters are, Jack, whether it's the existence of a pool or a mikvah or whatever else it is, or flow saving devices. If we can get to where you are, then that's the direction you need to be pushing us in. And we don't have that documentation as we sit here tonight. And so the point is, we do have a draft POS deck. I don't know when the board is going to want to move on. Probably there's different impressions, but the time is now to get to that spot. And with respect to the other arguments that we don't have a right to look at that, I hear it. I understand the framing. I get I know how to hear legal arguments. My guess is we're going to move forward with what we think we need to do to protect the environment. And so if you want to convince us of 36, the door is open, but I'm not sure how long it's going to stay open. We've been doing this for a while. And again, there's nothing prejudicial about a POS deck. It just formalizes this interchange where we start putting things up. We do scoping documents. We put things on paper. It's what the law actually prefers. If we can't negotiate over a period of several months and get it done.
The POS deck is not a denial.
Yeah, it's not.
And the whole bit with the 36, with what you got from the Department of Health, which was nothing more than an email 3 or 4 days ago. And I don't mean to denigrate Mr. Kazassa, but I am comparing what he sent to you about 36 and what he sent to the same assembled people, except for the two gentlemen to your left and right. A year ago, it was 55 for almost exactly the same kind of project.
It was not.
It was the same project. I'm sorry, it was the same project.
That was
And
not a camp.
to my attorney's point, a POS deck doesn't decline the project. A POS deck allows us to grind away at this and for you and for us to work together to get the information that we need in order to make a decision.
That's all we're asking, that you work together
Okay.
with us, whatever you come out with, you come out with.
We've been at it for a year.
Right, that's all we ask.
We've been at it for a year. We've
So
got,
can we, let us complete our discussion
Yeah,
and then.
please go ahead.
Then. You're up.
So my letter of April 20th was intended to respond to the part two issues that were raised by the board when you deliberated the part two of the EAF. And I organized it by each individual section of the EAF. Starting with water use, I have documentation available on the existing wells on the property and the characterizations that were done on those wells when they were permitted as water supply wells. And there's 3 wells on the property that collectively are capable of producing just shy of 60,000 gallons a day. Under the Department of Health water supply regulations and policies, you have to look at this with your largest well out of service. Be protective of the water supply system. So it's just shy of 30,000 gallons a day documented capability of the wells to furnish this project. And
what was the year of the well test?
I'd have to pull those records up.
It was 2002, 2004.
Yeah, I don't dispute that. And the 36 gallon a day.
But before you jump up the well, I got a question for you. The purpose of the well test primarily is to ensure that the facility gets an adequate supply of water, right?
That the wells are an adequate supply for the intended use, yes.
Including if the biggest well is knocked down.
Right.
Right. The purpose of the APO regulations is to ensure that the aquifer is not depleted, right?
Right,
So those two things are different.
to an extent.
Well, it's one thing to figure out if when a well is knocked out, whether you can actually supply the people on the property with water. That's the purpose of the test that you described. That's not the same as certifying to the people who live in the community that the well's not going to be depleted by however many hundred people that are on the site. Those are different things.
However, and when the Department of Health reviews applications for public water supplies, part of their consideration is the neighborhood and the exact point that you just raised. It's
Well, our hydrogeologic study, which we're heading towards, actually requires you to test wells in the area while you're doing a drawdown test. Department of Health doesn't do a drawdown test. We've been through this with many other projects. The Department of Health does nothing to ensure that existing wells are not negatively impacted. Nothing. Particularly in this
Okay,
county.
let them go into the 36 now.
Okay.
Okay.
on the issue of the 36. I have experience working across a range of different camps. And I've seen uses as high as 75 per person per day, and I've seen uses as low as 35. It goes to the nature of the operation. If there's multiple places where meals are taken and kitchens, you tend towards the higher end of the spectrum. In this case, it's a religious oriented use. The meals are common. And there's under this proposal, there's a single kitchen. There's efficiencies in that kind of operation on water use. Also, the campers bring their own linens. They're not part of the, there are some washing machines on the property, but they're not doing the linens for the campers. I mean, the applicant is here and can elaborate on that if you want, but based on all the evidence before me with the way that this camp operates and the fact that the same operator has another camp with direct experience that is at 35 gallons a minute. I'm confident as apparently is the Ulster County Department of Health, that this camp can operate at 35 gallons.
Well, I have a couple of questions. First of all, as we get further into this, whether it's in this process or in a DEIS process, can you supply us with the data that you're describing, where there's other camps with other numbers and different characteristics? That's the data that would allow us to make a decision, right? If you've got that, again, I want to urge you to share that with us so we can make the decision based on the vision that you have, and we can share that vision. Right now, we're just hearing you say that, and that's very critical. Secondly, I want to be clear on this because I did see it in your letter. Are you alleging that the linens that these campers use through the summer are not going to be washed one way or another?
The 3-week rotation, do you want to comment on that?
The 3-week rotation, each, they bring their linens, they take them home and wash them when they go home.
They take them home
How long are they there?
Just to hi, thank you for your time. I appreciate it. I understand it's very, your time is very essential, and you spend your time to help us out and get this project approved. What our concept about the linen part, let me try to express it, maybe it will be more understandable. When you run a hotel, every day, new people coming in, all the linen are being ripped off, all the towels packed together, they have to wash it, put new ones. This is increasing a high yield of using water. The same thing with dishes. What we submitted to the DOH is when we took over the Pine Grove, it's still over there somewhere across in the barn, pallets of plates, cups, nice dishes, what the hotel serves, versus to a summer camp. A summer camp, every child come with his bags and his linen, and he put it on his bed and he use it. So it's not like we provide and we have to wash. It's not being washed every day. Most of the time, max what I could say is, in case if they have a problem, they can ask permission to wash a load. Most of the time, if they want to change it every week, they're gonna bring 2 sets. If they want to change it every half a week, they can bring along 3 sets of sheets, whatever they want. It's their option.
Or she explained the camp session, but they're not there all summer.
Yes, and we have sessions, and they pack up and they go, and then the new session come and they bring their.
How long are the sessions, Heshi?
We usually try to accommodate 3-week sessions. So it's either 2, sometimes 3 sessions, what we have, somewhere between 2 and 3 sessions. So so therefore, our application is not close in terms of water, sewer. It's not even close to any yield of a different location where you have to provide linen, where you have to provide, you're using everything, plastic utensils, everything, all aluminum foil, all kitchen equipment, everything is disposable.
So to be clear,
Therefore, the DOH, and we study it, and we do have proof from our facilities and a lot more down the road, where we monitored flow records, and the DOH monitored the flow records, and we came down somewhere between 33 and 35 gallons per day. In terms of this, the DOH told me, it gave us the letter of 36 gallons. We could use 35, but we have to file for a waiver and ask the permission. We didn't do that. That's why it's somewhere we put down 35, and the DOH gave us 36 because they use a formula which came down from a lot of proof that it's that amount of water. And our engineer did more of that. He will be able to give you more. I just want to give you the explanation of the linen, just one part, why you could see somewhere 75 gallons and somewhere 35 gallons.
So
Actually, I remember you telling me that you're the person in charge of soliciting the children from Brooklyn and Queens to come up to the camp. So you have a good idea of at any point in time how many people are in the camp. Are you telling this board that last year, 2025, you had 770 people there, of which 550 were campers
About 550 work campers.
prospectively, or you did?
What do you mean?
And do you have,
Yes,
you have logs for that?
and if I do have everything you need, whatever my
You have-
is will.
The year
be
before,
comfortable.
If you redact the
I-
names of the campers.
I would appreciate if we could work out a way how, I don't want this, it's minors. It's not, I'm not allowed to give out any names.
No, we don't want
Of
the
course,
names,
it's a
but-
formal way how. we could
evidence
show
that
it
you
for
had that number of
prove
people.
it. We could work out with my attorneys the legal path, but I have everything ready, and if anyone.
And the year before, you had the same number, 550, 770, and the year before that, you had 550, 770?
Probably do
Uh,
first names or.
Maybe the
or something
first
along.
year, I don't remember for sure, but the last year,
So the first year you may have had 350 or 375.
I don't know.
Second year, you probably,
Pull out numbers from my mouth, I will not be able to firm just.
because it's being asserted here, you understand that your past use for every one of those years, and you said you had enough water,
Yeah.
was 770 people there.
About-
I just find that to go from the 400 and some odd, 495 that the Dude Ranch had up to 770. It
Too bad
just
you
confounds me that you had that number for 3 years running.
more.
I have a couple of questions on what you said. First of all, so what I'm gleaning from what you said is that it's your expectation that the campers will stay for basically 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And basically, unless there's some special request, not wash their linens.
They bringing along their limits, they could, if they need 2 sets, they're bringing 2 sets, if they need 5 sets, they're bringing 5 sets. It's not on site that the child should wash his own linen, and.
How many of them, what percentage of them bring 2 or 3 or 4 sets?
Whatever they want, I never asked children, and it's some private stuff. I
So
did
your
that.
expectation is that there's no provision for these folks, for these kids to wash. their
Generally
linens?
not.
Okay. Also, and this is the first time I've heard this, but I'm not sure, maybe I've missed it. You're asserting that on every 3 weeks, that the camp population is gonna turn over. So however many buses it takes to bring them up and also bring them back, that is gonna be on a 3-week cycle, not on an 8-week cycle. Not once for the summer, but rather every 3 weeks.
Yes.
Okay, it's useful. And
But that's not new. This is not accurate.
Current.
maybe not, I hadn't heard, but that's.
And we put this in for the town.
Okay. Third, I want to be clear, because I think Jeff mentioned this, I think Mark mentioned it, you mentioned it, so I just want to be clear on this. Because you've all mentioned the DOH finding that this camp that it's appropriate to use 36, a county DOH finding for 36 gallons a day. Is the only documentation of that finding in the email that Mark provided us in his submittal this month?
No, we put in our letter, an example of a comparable camp in Wawarsing that Makni Ratab, which was 35 gallons per person per day.
That was a DOH finding.
Yes,
But with respect to this camp, the DOH finding that you're talking about with respect to Rab's Tab, it's in that email. There's no other finding, there's no other research, there's no other, that's the finding you're talking about.
yes, but I applied, I took the Department of Health's number and I didn't just forward it as a given. We looked at the circumstances of the camp. The point that Hershey made that the dining facility relies on paper plates and cups and silverware and when you look at the sources, the uses within the camp that demand water,
it's,
we really do look forward to your analysis. I'd like to see more of it, but my question was not about your analysis. My question was about Department of Health findings. What is the documentation of the Department of Health's findings with respect to Ravtov?
that I don't know. You'd have to ask the Department of Health.
So,
They,
so you're not aware of documentation as to the Department of Health's findings as to Ravtov, including a finding of 36 gallons per day per person?
the Department of Health is cognizant of the water usage and permitting history and the wastewater permitting history. And they're cognizant of the use. And for the reasons that Hershey outlined, the water demands be on the lower end of the spectrum. And as I said earlier, I've seen in the mid-30s for certain camp operations, and I've seen other camps that are up around
Again,
75.
we look forward to getting the full range of your analysis of this. That's something more than we have now.
All we have to know is
I'm
it's
sincere
an
about that.
email.
I'm asking specifically though, because everybody's asserted that, but the Department of Health has found. I'd like to know what the documentation of the Department of Health's finding is.
The additional consideration is on the wastewater side, that the DEC design standards that are in their document, intermediate sized wastewater treatment systems, has several methods for arriving at flow estimates. You can use actual data where you have metered flow. You can use comparable facilities, and you can also use the allowances that are published in the tables of that document for different land uses. And the statement was made earlier that this board was leaning towards boarding house as the applicable unit rate, which is higher than 36. We're relying on direct experience at other camps and on the Department of Health's, who's the agency that regulates these types of facilities. When asked about usage rates, opined in that email that 36 gallons per person per day was acceptable for this camp.
So the
Mark,
so
I invite you to look at even the letter from Kazansif almost a year ago, May something of a year ago. It's a complete analysis in which he came up with 55 gallons per person per day.
different use. I was involved with that application. It was a totally different use.
Or you're gonna need to do something equally as erudite with this purported different use to come up with 36 to prove
just heard it.
the 36.
You got no washing of dishes.
We hear it
You
verbally.
got no washing of.
All we have,
You got no washing.
Going around in
of-
circles.
Yeah.
Let's open it up to everybody else.
Alina, you had a question.
Yeah, I have a question for Mark. You just mentioned, the water uses, you said 30 between, the camps typically use 35 to 75 gallons per day. And that's what has been found. However, you said with kitchens, however, tend to have a higher amount. So why are we using the
No,
lower?
what I said was, if all the buildings had their own kitchens, multiple
That would be
kitchens on the
different,
footprint,
but, okay.
it,
Well, there's
Right.
also another kitchen in the auditorium.
but I believe with the proposal here, the intent is to have common meals.
That's true. And then what about the other kitchen?
But what about it? I mean,
That's, so we're having an additive source. It's not replacing, you're adding.
no, it's intended to reduce. the water.
The applicant actually plans to have
no, I think-
multiple cooking in the central location and carry the meals to the other dining hall.
We have, that I appreciate that, but it's not in writing in our application. And then the other thing is what, Mark, I started looking at your letter to, I've had a stepmother in hospice, so, I was reviewing your letter and in your description of the work that has been done here, you mentioned, you give a little synopsis, but you failed to mention the other permits that, and construction projects that have occurred on the site that use water. And one is there was an addition, and I can give you the permit number, but there was a proposed addition with 97 showers. An auditorium with a kitchen and 5 toilets, the bath and utility project with 24 showers and 15 toilets. I also have gone back, the DEC, we're all talking about the Ulster County Board of Health permits, but no one's talking about the DEC permit. And the DEC permit, my understanding, was predicated on the flow summary that was submitted by Barry Medenbach, May 3rd, 2012. Which states 126 rooms, 2 people per room. With, however, on occasion, youth groups are held at the facility with 4 persons per room, so that would give you up to 504. So all this board wants to do is yes, you say we want to look at the delta, and that's what we're doing. And we have been asking for this information, along with Ulster County Planning Board has asked the applicant to demonstrate the flow, et cetera, and we have not received that. And I'm sorry if I'm speaking for other people, but it's very frustrating. We keep going back and forth, and we want to go forward with this. But until we get the water use and the septic, et cetera, we can't even begin to look at the size of the.
So beyond what has been provided, what specifically is the board looking for? We've attempted in my letter of April 20th to answer the concerns that were raised by part 2 of the EAF. We've taken the population, the usage rates, we've done the math, we've made the presentations. What more does the board need? Do you need affidavits from other camps, or, I mean, what? We have documentation from the Ulster County Department of Health. Do we need to have that engineer come to one of the planning board meetings?
We might.
I appreciate you saying that, but also if you'd like to reach out to Thomas Neckerowitz from the DEC, my understanding that if you're proposing a new building or a retrofit or a modification to your facility that is under their Speedies permit, then they are required to review and approve that action. And that, my understanding, that has not been done. So what we're trying to do as a board is make sure that from a regulatory point of view, we are in compliance with all of these other ancillary permits. That's all we want. I mean, am I correct here?
Yeah.
And we keep, you give us the actions, you've missed some of the biggest projects that occurred on the site. So I'm not comfortable. I don't know what else to say. I mean, I defer to our engineer. I think Greg, you have found that that they have not provided the information that has been requested by the board.
No,
or by you.
Well, and the biggest thing with the Speedies permit is there's 7 separate. There's seven separate systems. So if you've taken a use that goes to this system and now I mean, okay, people are shaking their head. There's building permits that made changes to the site. So the current Speedies permit is no longer valid. While that permit may have been transferred to this facility, that permit was for the use described in that permit. The fact that the applicant has made changes to the site which redirect sewer in different directions, that is not analyzed anywhere, and I've seen nothing to indicate whether or not there's been any analysis. So if you have a building now that has 91 showers, that 91 showers is going to a septic system. Previously, those 126 units were going to 4 different septic systems. So the showers from that 126 units were going to 3 or 4 different septic systems. Now they're all going to the same septic system. So is that septic system properly designed to accept that flow?
The outflow, we have multiple outflows. I don't remember the numbers.
7.
Whatever, number 7, I trust it. It's each, some outflow one is 7,000. only 7,000 go over there. No change was done, no pipe was done. Building one goes over there, building one was approved for 7,000, the same 7,000 goes over there. There is no change or no read out any sewer or any outfill or any septic. Everything was place it is, handling the same amount yellow it's designed. Even the new kitchen, it's going in and we bring it up about a half a year ago and it's on the plan. It's going in the same septic tank with the same outflow. No change of use, no change of. Therefore, we don't believe and we don't think that this changed anything on our speedy permit.
But isn't the DEC supposed to be notified of that and they make that decision?
Only,
Only if you seek a flow increase or extend sewers to new buildings or adjacent properties.
So modification of the system doesn't count for that?
No, it does.
No,
I'm asking you.
not within the currently sewered area. If a new building was going up somewhere else, or you were extending sewers to an adjacent property, you have to go to the DEC and amend the speedies permit. But this, the point that Greg raised, is something that we can do a presentation on. You want to see how the flow was allocated to the on-site leach fields in the past and how it is under the current. And we're not seeking a flow increase, so we're not seeking a modification to the speedies permit.
But you
Like
might
we
be,
just said,
you might be switching where the flow is going.
if you're constructing a new building, they need to be notified.
It's
We
within
are
the
constructing a new
within the
building.
campus that's served. The intent of this wastewater system was to serve the camp. We're not sending a sewer across the street for some building that's not part of the current campus.
one more thing, I would like to be as much as transparent as possible. In that auditorium application, and you mentioned the number, the PB number before, that it's gonna be a kitchen and 5 toilets.
Mhm.
That
That's
was
the-
never built, not the kitchen and the toilet. So it's no additional use for that. It's not gonna
Okay.
change any of our.
Okay.
I just like to be as much as open. I don't want to tell you 570 that year. Let's try to be as much as open as
It
possible,
was on the plan.
especially with my chairman.
Thank you for the clarification.
Thank you.
I want to make something clear to the board and the applicants here, as we look into the question of what DEC has done, and for that matter, what the health department has done. This is all very, very relevant, and in particular, the documentation and the facts that were exchanged between the applicant and the DEC and the agencies is relevant. This board's jurisdiction under seeker is that we're not issuing a speedies permit. We're not modifying a speedies permit. We're not issuing a camp permit. We're not issuing anything. Well, maybe we'll issue site plan approval at some point. We're doing a seeker analysis, and that's a look at whether or not the action may or may not cause at least one significant adverse environmental impact, and if it does, we'll do an environmental impact statement. That, and as the regulations make clear, that jurisdiction is different than DEC. So when, if they have violated, if they were supposed to have submitted a modification of DEC and they didn't, that's for DEC, and that, we can make whatever inferences in terms of, that violation or whatever. That is not what we're doing. Our job is very clear and simple. Our job, well, it's not simple. It's stated simply. Our job is to determine whether the proposed action will or will not, or will not or might cause at least one significant adverse environmental impact. We should use all the available data. If there were DEC actions, submittals to DEC, we should see those. We should see what DEC did. This is all relevant, but fundamentally it's different. So I don't want to spend too much time going down whether they should have done a modification or not. It's interesting, but at some point, what we want to know is what they're doing now, what they're proposed to do, and whether or not there's a proposed mitigation system sufficient to cover it. That's basically where we're at. Everything else is relevant, and we ought to look at it, but it's not the hill we need to die on. We're not an enforcement agency, as Jeff alluded to, I think a little bit earlier. So keeping our eye on the ball, it's whether or not there's going to be significant adverse environmental impact. And the reason why, frankly, the speedies permit's relevant here is because it specifies the capacity of the treatment system. We have a number, for better or worse or otherwise, 27, correct me if I'm wrong, 27,550 gallons per day for the facility in a disaggregated form. So it may actually be helpful to know if those systems are independent, what those independent capacities are as well. Greg has pointed out. But that's the task before us, is to figure out whether that system is adequate to deal with the proposal. And so I just want to point that out. It's useful to ask those questions, but don't get hung up on a permitting snafu or whatever.
Thank you, but I was just using it as a delta.
Yeah.
From the Pine Grove to here.
Also, let's
So
not think about
that's all,
that.
I'm sorry.
The delta is the way that they're framing it to try to get away from certain issues.
No, but
The issue I'm framing is the mitigation system that they either have or is proposed. They can certainly propose more mitigation. That's a place we may end up going. Is the mitigation system sufficient, the treatment system sufficient to deal with the proposed use, whatever it may be? That's what I counsel the board to keep an eye on. And
If I could
yeah,
just mention, getting away for a moment from the new building, one of the things that this camp did when it came in is that each room, but it was a hotel, had separate bathtubs. People, after they were riding horses, went in and took a bath in the tub. The showers that you're alluding to really replaced all the bathtubs in all of the rooms where the kids were, and they now take communal showers. And quite frankly, it's a bit of water savings as opposed to filling up a tub every time someone's taking a bath. So when you look at those showers, that really replaced something that was probably using a lot more water.
So, I mean, this point brings up, something that's resonating for me throughout this entire process, which is that we have not, in order to allay our fears of there being an environmental impact, we have not had a cohesive lineal story, a narrative that tells us why the use now, comparing it to the use before, and these narratives that are interesting and informative, but have never been put together in a way that we have a comprehensive understanding of how this facility works in comparison to its prior use. And honestly, when we look at permits, I'm hearing about speedies and permits that were granted years ago. We don't have that as a comprehensive package, and that's been our confusion, or has been part of our confusion throughout this whole process. That we get a little bit of information here and there, a little bit of narrative. We have examples of, another a facility that uses 35 gallons a day. We don't know what that is. It's one facility. It's very confusing, and so it doesn't, to me, lend itself to allaying my concerns about there not being the possibility of an environmental impact here. It's in a very sensitive area. If there's one thing that is so important within our region, and specifically where our top is, it's water. It's the key thing. Every development that we talk about, every subdivision, even subdivisions of, one lot into 3 houses, we talk about water. And this happens to be in an aquifer that's so sensitive. And so that's why we are, asking this question. But it's so frustrating because we don't get a whole story about.
And let me say this, I appreciate what you said. And one of the problems we've had from the beginning, and I think that Eric said it much nicer than I had said it, which is that we made an application for a building, not for a camp. We were running a camp already. And most of the questions that have been asked by this board are about operating a camp, not building a building. And we've gone back and forth with that, and I understand where they've come from with the information you need, so you can answer that. But our problem is the more we acknowledge that we'll go over the whole camp, the more questions we're gonna get. We got a letter from your building department that said that this is not a change of use. And so we didn't have to go through this whole camping process. We started with the fact, we're building a building, ask us how the building impacts the water use and the sewer use, and I think we can give you excellent answers on that, that say it's gonna be less, there's gonna be savings on both ends. But then when you're going into the history of the camp, then one question leads to the other, and we sort of lose touch with why we're here. To build a new building, not to operate a camp.
I think we've been talking about a speedies permit from 2012. And do we have that?
Yeah, we have a James permit.
So, you know, it's like. You know, I just feel like the information is not being given to us, and certainly the narrative, so we understand. You know, the impact, and if it comes down to that measure of if there's. You know, do you have any concerns about there being environmental impact? You know, that's where I'm at, is, you know, thinking those fears have not been allowed. It's a fundamental issue that we deal with in this.
And again, our position is, we're running the camp again this summer. If we had this building, we feel that water and sewer would be more efficiently used than it's gonna be used this summer, because we don't have this new building.
But the camp's gonna run at 770. Where we are,
Well, the documentation you gave us
765, yeah.
says 570. So I don't know where you get 770 from. It says 570 right here.
You're referring to the narrative you read out before at the beginning of the presentation. That's what you just mentioned. You're referring to a narrative was you read out before. You're referring to a narrative you read out before when we started this application? Okay. First of all, as much as transparent we have to be, as much as can the entire board gonna be, and as much as the community. What I understand is maybe it didn't read out correctly. This new building only being used for the children, not for the families. Therefore, the application we put in was only for this amount, for the amount of children we have, not the amount the entire facility has. Maybe this was unclearly put down. I apologize for this. And I really
Apology.
sorry.
Let me just tell you what we also asked. Hey, you don't need to apologize, but
No, it's bringing,
But let
I
me-
like to be as much transparent as possible.
you're trying to be as upfront as possible. When we asked what you're doing with the existing dining room, you didn't tell us that you were gonna be serving the other 220 people there. What you
No.
told us you were gonna do with that is use it as office space. So hang on. You tell me it's gonna be 570 people that are going to be fed in this new room.
550?
550, 570. The existing dining room. You told us originally, nobody's being served in there.
Class, it's gonna be classrooms or offices, whatever.
Right, so where are you serving the other 220?
If you see on page.
Hershey, where are you serving the other 220 people?
If you see on page 1 of the 13 pages we submitted, there is building number 2 or 3. Referring to the secondary dining room. And I'm referring to this submission. And if you look on the legend on the left, which is say, second, building 3, floor 1. That secondary dining rooms. 70 people.
Does that mean there's another dining room?
Yes, and we mentioned this before at this board, maybe it wasn't so clear, but in the previous.
Yeah, building
We already
three.
mentioned that they be fed over there. So the secondary dining room, which is there since we bought it. we
You're
put
talking
it
about
over
the
that
thing
way.
labeled as 3, number 3.
Building secondary, we proposed there.
That existing use, you have the big dining room.
Well, all I can tell you is that when we sat here a year ago, we asked about the existing dining room. We understood perfectly well a number of things. We understood that you wanted to have a cleaner operation, both in terms of your kitchen, had the opportunity to meet your chef, he's pulling his hair out. fact, he has no hair left because, he can't operate. We asked specifically, what are you doing with the old one? It's
I'm
going,
referring to the old dining room. I'm referring to the secondary dining room. That's not the old dining room.
that was never,
Are you talking about the chart on the bottom left of that?
No.
Yes.
Well,
well, we're talking about two different maps because that doesn't drive with what it just said. So there's another map.
That was, you had it listed as 70 people,
Yes.
but now you're telling us it's 220.
Yeah, but they come it's come and go. They're not eating as United.
So Heshy, I don't disagree with what you're just saying, but a year ago, that's not what we heard. And when we had the meeting in the firehouse, we couldn't find any other place to meet than other than the firehouse. We found out that this 770, it came like a bolt of lightning out of the skies. Where the hell is this coming from? So you can understand the board.
I have a couple of thoughts here. It's probably not the most productive thing to go back over the last year and a half and assess where there might have been misstatements or inexact statements. Starting this point forward, you guys have heard the type of information that we need and the background information that goes into some of the documents that have been presented, including that health department email that was provided to us. I would like to think through what the most productive way is moving forward to get this information so we can have the conversations that we need, because we still have a significantly different impression from what your impression is, both frankly, technically and legally. But we're all better off if we can try to bridge those gaps rather than to go back and figure out why they fell through the cracks. But you understand that at some point the process ought to move forward for the benefit of everybody or not. I mean, we can just do this for.
So if I could just one more thing, because I think just to clarify the dining room situation, I believe that what Hershey is saying is that there was a staff dining room. And that's where the family staff members ate since they were there and ate with the other staff. He is eliminating the guest dining rooms, but not the staff dining room.
So where the campers dine now will be eliminated.
Right.
Okay,
Do you
so
understand that?
now I do. I wish I understood it this time last year.
I apologize.
So
The other one
what's
is-
important to do is for the board. Is for the board to make a decision as to how we want to proceed.
Can I ask you one other question?
Go ahead.
Because we spend a lot of time on water and sewer. Forget about the building for a second, we'll get to the rotation and that. Of the issues that you found to be significant, what other information do you need from us to give the board a little better peace of mind?
You mean aside from water, sewer in the building?
Yes. Is there other issues there that
Well-
we can't mitigate by just giving you a narrative?
We now understand that the traffic is going to be much more, the heavy traffic is going to be much more frequent than it was before. It's going to be every 3 weeks rather than every.
That's been the operation since day one that they started. They were not allowed to let the kids stay more than 3 weeks.
I'll leave this to the technical people. Do we need any more information on the traffic flows in order to come to a conclusion?
If the board allow me to give just a little impression about traffic, not traffic expert. But I was a very good friend with David, the old owner from Pine Grove. I used to visit him a lot. And he had 120 rooms, average plus employees plus day visitors. So on average day, he may have 120 plus parking slots, and they changed every day, checking in, checking out. And when I used to come over there to visit him, there was one parking, two parking. There's a third parking we never used since we took over the place. That was always full. The backup parking. Parking towards Upper Cherrytown down the road was every time full. I couldn't find a parking spot. Now you rarely find one person parked over there. There was a parking in the back. It's every time empty. People used to park across the road. It was every time full. Now, since we took over, the gates is always locked, as you see, and we have almost no traffic. But you're speaking about a few buses coming in a few weeks versus 120 cars every day coming and going, plus employees, plus day visitors they have. It's, I would say, 95% cut in traffic.
Actually, how many buses do you need to bring 550 kids to the site and move them off the site? And also, what's the daily car traffic for the 220 other people that are there?
The 220 people don't have cars, they're coming up in the beginning of the summer and they stay over there. So
So they're bused in once for the summer.
so if you want to know, just to give for the board an idea, it's about 9 or 10 buses
Coming and going.
coming and going versus 120 cars plus employees plus day visitors.
Okay.
And that might every day, and this is once in 3 weeks. That yield should be very comfortable for the board, if I may ask. For the board, and we all know,
Rick,
Good. Yeah, go, David.
I'm just saying on the traffic, you could just quantify that. Mark knows what I'm talking about. Just put it in writing that you're gonna, every 3 weeks, it's gonna be a,
thank you.
I think it's relatively straightforward. I know there were some community concerns about the pedestrian drifts.
I would like to address the pedestrian.
I don't think that I'm not offering that as a problem. I'm just saying you could address in the narrative what kind of pedestrian movement there you expect at the property. It'd be an issue of whether there should be a wider shoulder, sidewalks, it's that kind of design question, but I just wanted to note, you've applied according to the application also for a resort use. Is that still in play?
During the winter.
In the
Because all
winter,
we've talked about so far is the dead camp.
in the winter, yeah,
Correct.
120, not
It's known around here as other than summer. Right?
in the winter.
So 10 months of the year, there's no camp.
No,
There'll be a resort use or not?
it is, yeah.
Well, how does these impact issues we talking about relate to non-campers during the 10-month period?
The resort,
Is there an
the
option?
use, it was over there all the time.
It's no different
Yeah,
than,
the only thing is
yeah, but the problem was.
the only thing we open once a week.
Here, what,
instead
it's
of every day.
maintained for a period of time?
What was that question?
Did the new ranch close for a certain point and be unoccupied?
No, we took
But
over.
after they took it over, after
Was it like a-
2000.
They had winter activities too.
We took it over a
It
week.
wasn't abandoned.
No.
It's
Unfortunately,
for
went away.
the year.
Oh, no,
It
no.
makes it
use.
a non-existing use.
There was a sale from
They got
David to
sold.
another party and then that party sold to us.
So
Okay.
my point being the same discussion, we need to talk about the other 10 months. Is what's
Could
gonna,
be an area.
what's the water use, what's the traffic?
Same thing you had by all the time.
So then just, I think what
sounds-
Rick's trying to say is just say that.
Oh, wait.
Not a conversation.
How can
All right,
I-
hang on. There's 2 or 3 things we need to proceed with, because 2 or 3 things I need to say and ask the board about. First thing is, just keep in mind, nothing that we're doing here is personal, right? It's all business. Now, you know, in The Godfather, they came up and it turned out to be kind of personal, but
Be a dead horse in my bed.
Yeah.
So-
Hey.
the board needs to, I've been listening a lot, we're getting a lot more information. The board needs to decide at some point tonight how they want to get at resolving this stuff. Do they want to do it, quite frankly, through a pause deck, or do they want to do it in the fashion in which we've been going about it, which is, let's call it non-pause deck? Essentially, the pause deck puts a frame around how to get at the information, a very rigorous frame with lots of public input, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The other way, which is what we've been doing, part of the reason why we're here a year, and we still don't have our hands around it. So I don't have a solution to that, but I put it out there as something we need to discuss. But before we go there, you have a comment about RLUIPA
Yeah,
that you want to, and then we're going to come back to my question for the board.
Eric mentioned the case that he was asserting made a pause deck legally actionable. And I had a chance to look at it while we were chatting. And I'm glad, I want to tell the board about it, and if Eric's still here, so you can comment as well. Case was Mamaroneck, Westchester Day School versus Mamaroneck. And in fact, in that case, although the board did do a pos deck, that was not ultimately what was actionable. What was actionable was that the board actually denied the application for the religious use. Also, that's point number one, which is of fundamental importance because RLUIPA is all about a denial of religion, of opportunity to enjoy religion. And as we know, a pos deck is not that denial, it's just, it's a study.
There would have been no case if it was.
No, I need to respond to it once.
Well, let me
Okay,
continue. Additionally, the pos deck was not simply a pos deck, it was a reversal of an egg deck. So the board had made an egg deck, and then they went ahead and reversed it to a pos deck, and then they denied the application. So I know Eric's here, you want to say something about it, but I want the board to know that if indeed we are considering a pos deck.
No, I absolutely want to respond to that because here's what happened in that case. There was an initial proceeding where they did a pos deck that was challenged in federal court, and the district court ruled that violated secret. Under its supplemental jurisdiction, it evaluated it and said where they had there was a neg deck and followed by a pos deck, and they said that was arbitrary and would
Because
be
it was a neg
futile,
deck followed by a pos
but
deck.
it would be futile. And there's a well-developed Second Circuit case law on futility in land use applications.
What's a futility?
The futility is if, we have a disagreement on whether SECRA looks at the change or can look at, anything. But we believe that it looks at the change. And if you're saying, the only change here that we can see is
That's not
decreasing
futility.
water use.
I want to be clear. When Eric was here the last time, he had one demand on this board under RLUIPA and the associated other constitutional provisions. That demand was that this board consider and ultimately approve a facility that was substantial enough to serve all of the campers in one sitting. That was the religious use that was very specific. This board, both informally in communications with Eric and ultimately in the part 3, specifically agreed to that formulation. There's nothing futile here. This board has agreed that the application and that our consideration of the application is for a facility that will serve all of the campers in one sitting precisely as they requested and you requested. The question here is how seriously we need to look at the.
Put aside the RLUIPA for a sec. You asked about this case and you characterized how I've said it, and I'm gonna have to respond. What the court did in that case is it looked at SECRA. It said, is it futile? Not the RLUIPA part, but the SECRA part. Is it futile to pursue it? And they said, yes, under the Second Circuit's precedents, it's futile because of the arbitrariness they're facing. Then the Westchester decided not to fight that, not to appeal to the Second Circuit. And they heard the site plan and ended up denying that. That ended up being challenged. That challenge continued. That is what went up to the Second Circuit.
I'll brief the board in more detail on the clarification here. I think that the point is fairly obvious. This is not futile. This board is not reversing a neg deck, and this board at this point is not even contemplating denying the application.
Why I was saying it would be futile, because in our view, the SECRA looks at the change. It's not what's the camp.
That's
The
not
camp-
utility.
The camp is operating. If you're looking at things that don't affect the change, right? We think, if you want to look at the building, what's happening to it? If there is increased water consumption from the building, that's part of the change. But if you're looking at things dealing with the operation of a camp that's already existing, that has nothing to do with SECRA, and that is an inappropriate use of SECRA. We can disagree, we can exchange some cases over the next week.
But that's not
But
utility.
that's our view of SECRA.
In those cases.
We don't have a judge here to rule one way or the other. So unless you want me to bang on the gavel and make a decision.
No, and on the substantial burden in the Second Circuit is a holistic view. It's, does the actions
Eric.
of the government impose a substantial burden on their
I
religion?
appreciate-
Does delaying a year, does delaying it 2 years, burden them? Then it shifts back to you to say, oh, we have a compelling government interest, and that can
That's where
be
there's a denial.
litigated over. What's
That's
that?
where there is a denial.
Or there's an actual injury to delaying worship for a year. The activities they're gonna have in community that we talked about.
No
back in
RLUIPA
December.
cases, I don't know if any RLUIPA cases ever held that.
Yeah,
Eric,
circuit
okay.
delay, uncertainty and expense
Well,
are,
I'm happy to trade.
yeah, we could talk further.
I'm very proud of the fact that this board made it clear. In fact, I put it in writing. Did you? You gave me hell for it. But I put it in writing to make it clear to you, when you first just made a variety of assertions, very interesting assertions. I made it clear that we had no intention of trying to deny the religious rights of this group. Made it very clear, you remember it. Nor are we doing that now. We want to make sure that the rights of the other people that you see sitting here are not denigrated or affected. Let's leave it. Denigrate is too harsh a word, or affected. By the taking of water, by the increase, whatever, traffic. That's all we're doing. I understand your point. Our point is, we're not here. Nobody has demonstrated any kind of religious.
Okay.
No, it's not about bias, but it's about burden. And
We don't believe it's a
that water is
burden.
gonna be consumed whether this building is approved or not. But if this building is not approved for at least a year, maybe 2 years, these children will not be able to have all those things that you talked about in that email to me of.
Is your
gathering
objective to get to an
community.
answer and to get a solution, or to sue?
We want to get this thing built.
Okay, so then we're gonna get it built
It's-
in some fashion. He decides how much he's gonna pay you to do whatever you gotta do. I see him shaking his head that he wants to get this done, he being Heshy. So this board needs to decide how we're gonna get at these issues and how we're gonna get this resolved. So we either keep going around in circles,
So if we can just get back for 1 second.
or we do a pause deck.
Yeah, I just
Go ahead.
wanna know what other issues, we've now talked water, sewer, you talked traffic, we gave you some answers to some of these.
Lighting.
Of the other thing, and lighting, we're gonna cap all the lightings, I think we can resolve that in mitigation, we don't need to go.
If we can get through the water and sewer issues, to the point where we're
Comfortable.
either in agreement or the board can make a decision. And we understand more fully the mitigation that has been done on the building, which, I mean, I personally appreciate the effort, but now it's time for us to take a look at it. We
Okay.
don't even know how wide it is on, it is 158.
I told you it was.
All right, you got it. Okay, so we got 158 feet. At some point, getting some visuals for what it's gonna look like from the community, from Cherrytown Road. It may be, I don't know where the board's gonna come down on it, whether we need more mitigation or whatever, but that's the sort of thing that we need to evaluate and get that moving. But this water thing, we're gonna have to get on. It
Gotcha.
sounds like,
Water, sewer, and the building, we're going on those.
and, we
Yeah,
need, we need the traffic, I mean, with all respect to Heshy, we can't, we're past the point where we can simply have a conversation and answer those, we need it on paper, we need it analyzed. And also, we need to figure out, as Dave brought up, whether any of this changes during the 10 months of the year when we have a resort instead of a camp, and we, unfortunately, as Dave, I think mentioned, I'm not sure we've really seriously broached any of those issues, so we need to know what's going on, what the differences are, the traffic, everything else,
Jeff,
So
the best way to answer your question about what are
this guy-
I have a
Yeah.
question, when you say water and sewer, what are we gonna specify for a hydrogeological report? With the drawdown and the impacts of.
That's part of it.
I mean. Okay, cause when you say water and sewer, I just wanna be clear that the applicant knows what we are asking.
Well, in
So
general,
pump tests
well, yeah, okay.
for the hydro, because they are in the act.
For sewer, I'm looking at the delta, if any, between the Speedy's permit and the amount of the discharges of.
No, we understand that. Look, our position on the hydrological is that provision of your law came into effect long after this property was used for the purpose that it was used. That law came into effect, what, about a year ago, year and a half
What
ago?
purpose does that mean? We're going forward. You're going forward with the new building.
We're only putting in the new building, we're not increasing water or sewer use. Again, we go to that issue that this new building will reduce water and sewer use, not increase. it.
Jeff, we're at a crossroads.
Yes.
we're either gonna work out a way to have a very robust exchange of information,
Mhm.
or you're gonna deny that it's necessary, and we're gonna.
We'll give you as much information as we can. We're gonna try to explain to you why we don't believe a hydrological is required.
That's-
Okay, so
As much information as we can.
Okay,
the board has a decision to make. It sounds like they've made. To answer your question about what else, it's all in the FEAF part 3. And it's late,
well, except we haven't, except for the resort, which really isn't.
we didn't get to yet.
Yeah.
But-
that's-
So the board has a decision to make as to whether we continue to work in the fashion we've been working with this group. Or we go into a pause deck. I see no other and that's the crux of the matter. Caesar is ready to cross the Rubicon.
That's what everybody's.
I have one objection to what you're saying.
But
For the first time, we got your part 3. We've responded to your part 3. This has not gone on for a year. This has gone on for 30 days. Since we got your part 3, now we're responding. Now we're specifically giving you the information to mitigate. So it's not like we were talking about this in November. This is the first time we went through seeker. You gave us the part 2, then your proposed part 3. We've responded to your part 3. You've now asked us for some additional information, and we intend to give that to you. But in terms of saying we've been jerking this around for a year, that really is not the case.
So you're proposing you get another X number of days or weeks?
We would like to, now that we've had this meeting and you've asked for specific information, we'd like to try to get you that information to see if we can make you comfortable.
I'd like to know that we've been asking for this information from the very beginning. It's not like we just started asking for it.
Well, I've only been here since November. So I don't
Okay, so you can't speak
for
for it, but we've been asking for this, and it's part of the frustration with this board is we've been asking for these things from the beginning.
Well, if I understand it right, in November is the first time that you realized or thought at least that there was a significant difference in the way the camp was being operated in the resort. So I don't think before that it was much of an issue as it was.
Jeff, it was in December that we got Mark's letter that indicated there were 707 people.
To that, I have to say, what the biggest questions was sewage and water use, et cetera. And Mike's, and I had conversations with Mike Scalise, as did Jennifer
But
Farmer.
prior to that, also it was the building. We had.
And that was, and I was saying, let's not even talk about the size.
Okay.
We need to.
All right, so I want to hear
discuss
from
the-
I want to hear from the board.
To the board.
Peter, keep going.
I see another month of the same thing that we've been asking for months, and we get blamed for not asking for stuff specifically that we've already asked for. And that's the frustration that I feel is this stuff we've been batting this around for months. The 220 was not announced to us. It wasn't told to us. It was stuffed into a report that was presented to us at a meeting, one of these outside meetings at a small group meeting. It wasn't told to us. We looked at it and said, what's this 220? What's this 770? So it's just, I just feel like the whole process has not been upfront and some shifting sand, this whole experience for me, from my perspective.
I feel also that I hear the same thing. I hear today for the first time, it's only 3 weeks. My understanding, and I have to go back, but my understanding, I was told all the time that these people would stay there for the whole summer. This is only one data point, which is completely inconsistent. That's why I think we need to have a formalized approach and owe this to this community and to ourselves as a board.
And I agree with Hans. We've been asking for this, we've been reviewing this for over a year. We're not getting the information that we need. And it's very frustrating. We want to move forward. We want to be able to give alternatives, and I agree with Peter, and I'm not gonna make a motion.
Dave?
Let's see how to move forward.
Yeah, I mean, I think that. I'll make the same thoughts, is that, with a comprehensive, and we've asked for this for so many times, but with a comprehensive application. The narrative that we're hearing tonight should have been part of what we got as the original narrative, like the use. And yet here we are, you know, over a year later, just understanding, and it's useful information, but just understanding now about, you know, water usage and like I say, this is the number, if you exist in this area, this is the number one issue. This is the thing that needs to be addressed as being responsible to the community. And this information isn't, you know, it's not because we hadn't asked for it. It should be part of a comprehensive understanding of this site and of an application right from the start. And we've asked for it so many times. We inch with a little bit of information here and there. And like you say, you know, we went from 550 to 770, and I think we're just blindsided by that from
Well,
months.
listen, I just want to say this, I've been involved in a lot of applications. And when someone comes into my office and says, I'm running an operation, I want to add a building, I want to do this. You bring your application based upon what the addition is, not on the entire use of the property. And that's done in every case I've ever been involved with. So again, this is my third meeting here. This is Mark's first meeting here. And brought him on board because of your concern about water and sewer. So to say it's been jerked around for a year, we did, or they did without me, what I would have done if I was here to begin with, which is to give you an application to add a building to an existing facility. And you have asked us to now, no, that's not enough. We want to know your whole facility. And again, that's unusual, abnormal from what is usually done in an application for building a building.
I want to point out to the board, there actually is middle ground here, which the board may wish to think about as well. We have two documents that are proposed, that have been provided to the applicant, provided to the public. One is a part 3, and one is a draft POSDEC resolution. If one possibility here, for whatever it's worth, for you to consider, is that we can adopt the part 3. Part 3 is extensive, it's on the issues, it's got extensive findings. Clearly, a number of those findings lead to a POSDEC, but it is not a POSDEC in any way, shape, or form. And furthermore, if we adopt the part 3, they still have, the dialogue can continue. We can propose a POSDEC resolution for the next meeting. They can come in with whatever data, information, reports that they think is useful. We can always amend the part 3. There's nothing in secret. There's, you know, it's when you try to amend the neg deck or you know, you can't amend the POSDEC, but you can amend the neg deck. That's much more significant. Amending part 3 is just a resolution based on new information, but it does show forward progress for whatever the board thinks it's worth. It's got a number of things in it that clearly established a potential significant adverse impact. In fact, I think it probably says so. And so the board can do that and suspend or table for the next set, however far you want, the actual resolution for POSDEC. But it adopts language that gives these guys something that it would be administratively adopted, it'd be there. They can then have something that not only advisory to shoot at, it gives them something that is right there that they need to rebut if they want to avoid POSDEC next time. So that's a possibility as well.
How is that different from where we are at the moment? I mean, I think from what I'm hearing is that you're saying, well, if we adopt the part 3, we're saying we're begging them to respond to that item by item.
If you have a 7-year-old and you say, I really mean it.
Oh, I mean, well, yeah, I guess, is that, yeah. So it's kind of saying, really respond.
Agencies do stuff like that all the time as it's take it for what it's worth. It's just a suggestion.
All right, no, that explains.
Can I just make an observation on that? My April 20th letter was following the draft, part 3. Tonight's meeting was useful for me because on the issue of wastewater, I heard Greg comment on, you know, there's 7 different wheat fields. There's no documentation before this board about what flow goes where. I understand that. On water, we provided you the email from the Ulster County Department of Health, the agency that oversees these types of operations, that stated 36 gallons a minute. I heard what I heard. I'm sorry, 36 gallons per person per day. What I heard back though is you're not putting much weight in an email from the Department of Health. You're-
And it didn't, in my view, looking at the language, it didn't even embody the finding that you're saying, let alone where it came from, what went into it.
But yes, you're correct. We're
Yes.
not putting much weight to it.
That's
But
good.
it's the same individual who wrote the letter that you.
And we
posted.
believe that the amount of work that he put into that previous letter and the situation in the previous case and this situation are practically the same, if not exactly the same. So I don't know how he came up with 55 in one case and 36 in the other. That's a true statement from this board.
Mark, if I can suggest, I think what you're hearing is the more you come forward with very substantial, serious background information, the more the more the board is going to be interested in pursuing further discussion. It's just that we don't have to do it. And here's a one-liner from the health department. At some point, the board is not feeling satisfied in terms of the.
And all I said is, there's no prejudice in saying, all right, you want 30 days? You get us the stuff in 30 days and then we'll tell you. But to now give a positive deck and put us in another direction altogether, I think is very
We
short-sighted.
could do part 3.
Well, I think it's, yeah, I mean, I don't think the pause deck is another direction.
It is.
I mean.
No, it's not.
There's a
Wait.
formality.
Let-
Yeah.
Well,
He's
yeah,
got the
let's-
floor.
Yeah, I mean, I see that as a way of formalizing for us to get the information to fully understand the impact of this. That's what it is.
Is there any possibility? First of all, I'm not going to the Board of Health and saying, you guys will have to go and get from Kazaza. And after you come back with something else, and I believe it will be something else, or it'll be more substantive, then we're going to bang away at it. But what we're saying right now is somebody called him on the phone, said, I need a number. I'm exaggerating. I need a number. He's busy. He needs to get off the phone. I'll send you an email. We need more than that, a lot more than that. Because the two situations are exactly the same, in my opinion. Ridgeview Realty and this project are exactly the same. And if they're not, then you gotta prove it to us. Because and you guys gotta prove it, why it's not the same. So,
And can I just say something about the pause deck? With a pause deck, it can be a very narrow pause deck, limited to what it's not a change in direction. It's trying to get the data that we have been asking for, and it can be very streamlined and a very workable document. I've done them in the past, and I'm prepared to do it again. So
Although there will be a scoping
Yes.
session that would
That is
define the
true.
buzz, that would define the EIS.
A significant expense to the applicant, without question.
Well, Jeff, we have to get on the train where we start exchanging information one way. or the other.
right, so
We're on the train with you. I like your proposal.
I don't know. I kind of feel
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion that we declare a positive declaration.
Specifically, the one that's in the one that's been, one
In our, in the.
one that's drafted and up on the,
Yes.
up on the site.
all right, I'll ask for a second.
I like.
All right, so let's have some discussion.
Yeah, Rick, man.
Go ahead.
I'll just note, the Sterling response. I haven't had an opportunity to look at it as. knows, I had
When it came in
other,
this week.
I had others, what came in this week between time and other assignments. But there is substantive response to some of the items. So, I would suggest if you're gonna go that path, your scope may be narrowed down.
So,
Okay, so
hang on,
For example, I.
Dave, hang on. We have a motion, we have a second. So now you want to discuss the motion.
Correct.
Go ahead.
Correct. So, the motion is a resolution.
It's been
It's been
proposed.
drafted.
It's up on the.
I
it's up on the
would
internet.
suggest there's been lack of time to analyze this, but the same scope of issues may not still be valid.
Well,
Based on responses that I've only had a
Again,
preliminary opportunity to look,
the scope of issues will ultimately be defined by the scoping session and the.
but you have a resolution that has a list of items.
What I'd like to talk to the board is there. Because one way or the other, we're gonna be talking a lot together. The pause deck puts a lot of format around it,
A lot of process, a lot of
process.
standardized
I
process.
think it's gonna be about the same amount of time for us. It'll be the same amount of time and money. Perhaps more money for them, I don't know.
Well, you have procedural
Is-
requirements.
There's definitely procedural.
Posting,
requirements,
scoping, potential public
And you
hearing.
know how I just love to go through process.
There were also some misstatements in your resolution where we're well down below 39,000 square feet in the building. And you're still showing that as a reason to pause decking.
I don't think so. I don't think you're below 39,000.
Yes, it does.
What do you think you're at?
29.
29?
This
No,
says
the,
your building schedule says 42,000.
It's 19,5 and 10.
On your plan.
I'm not, you were at 52. Dave Roberts, check, they were at 52. Initially.
I'm just looking at the drawing.
Okay.
CJ, the resolution refers to the part 3 is written.
Pursuant to the findings, and it also lists your, in section number 1, it lists impacts, that's what that is.
Bottom of page 1, it's got the completed part 2 and 3. I presume it's
I
written.
don't know that you have the opportunity to
I
amend
would
it.
say I'd write it differently.
Yeah, that's what it.
I don't know. Okay.
I might write it differently.
Maybe
Under 30. Square footage is under 30. Under diagram, we have it before.
We have a slight pause to see if Mr. Roberts is an architect,
Oh, well, yeah.
and it says 42.
I mean,
right?
it's this, well, I don't know, this is a drawing, looking at. I don't know what. Someone should be looking at.
Yeah, basically, the resolution that you have really ignores the information that we submitted in terms of visual. Once you turn the building, in terms of the size of the building now.
Jeff, we're not ignoring it, we didn't even know how wide it was, and we don't have any visuals.
Exactly, but that's why that we should hold off on this positive that they have an opportunity to really review what we just gave you.
Well, the question is whether there's been enough, it'll be up for the board to
Yeah,
determine whether
yeah,
we've gotten enough in a sufficient amount of
You
time.
pledged
Jeff,
historic.
I could tell you that what we received from Mr. Millspot. We appreciate it, but it's nowhere near the level of detail that we're gonna need.
But there was some-
Nowhere near it.
For example, the historical part of it, to say that that is a significant impact, I don't see that. Especially after you've now turned the building, that's one of the reasons why it impacted your historical building.
Well, I'll elaborate. I mean, the construction activities don't include blasting or pile driving. We're not gonna have ground vibrations.
I think somebody said it at the last meeting when Mr. Tren was here, and it was Mr. Tren who I think said it. The issues are water and septic primarily, and the building.
Yeah, but that's not what your resolution says. That's what our objective.
Because it had to include lighting, it had to include noise, it had to include all these other things, and those are still important things. What's your point?
The point is, they should not be part of a positive deck. Those are the things that can be.
Well, we're either gonna do a positive deck on everything that we have in the FEAF.
And I believe I heard from Melina that we would be able to narrow what would be scope.
I didn't hear anything from Helena to
No,
narrow
I
it.
didn't, I said you had mentioned, you stated that a pause deck was a change in direction. And that it opens a lot of things up. I said, no, you can have a narrow.
Right.
Pause deck that, it addresses the issues that we have brought up to you and the
But
engineer.
Helena, Dave's point was that as drafted, there may be certain things we want.
Right, understood. So that could be a change. Maybe today is not the day for a vote.
That's all we're asking.
And what are you gonna do between now and the next meeting?
We're going to go back through the comments that were made tonight. We're gonna look at your part 3, what we've responded, the information that you're looking for, which is more definitive information on the water and the sewer in particular. I think the visuals we can readily show to you that when you.
Well, it's in the package.
Yeah, it's in the package already, but once you move the building to the way it is, the visual goes down significantly.
I drove Cherrytown Road today and the existing building and the stand of trees along the side of Cherrytown Road substantially block any view in. You have to be standing right at the driveway and looking directly into the site to see this building.
Mark?
You know what's gonna happen, what I see happening, we're gonna come back in 30 days. And you're gonna give us some stuff, you're gonna say, for example, I'm just gonna smile, you're gonna say, hey, you're not gonna be able to see it. You just make that statement, instead of giving us.
No, I'm gonna give you that.
Well,
You can- no,
Line of sight thing?
I just want my impression. I think with respect, we're past the point where we can make decisions based on statements such as that one or statements such as that, like Heshy gave before. At the end of the day, if we have a visual, a simulation, that will allow the board to make a decision. And I'm actually hopeful that the work done on the building will prove to be useful. We still have a lot of problems, obviously, with water and sewer. But I'm respectful of the fact that, I asked you in the email a couple of months ago, Jeff, to roll up your sleeves, and I told you to work with the board, you did it yourself, but to roll up the sleeves and reconfigure, be creative. And we've gotten some movement, we can't evaluate it, it's kind of just words. But we need something that the board can evaluate, and it's not gonna be a dialogue anymore in one form or the other. It's gonna be, the dialogue is gonna be backed up by formal documents and stuff that we can dig our teeth into. That's why it's good, we've had the dialogue for a year and the progress has not been sufficient, so. More serious documentation of the issues is going to be what gets us past where we are. So there's a motion on the floor. If the board wants to suspend it for a while, there can be a motion to table. And then we can vote on that.
We have a motion, we have a second. Does anybody have anything else to say? And I'll call the vote. We'll do a voice vote, not a voice vote, individual roll call vote.
Okay.
And by the way, we're missing 2, so we still need 4 to pass it. If it's anything less than that, doesn't get passed. So, let's start from left to right.
Member Nelson,
Aye.
member Fetchner,
Aye.
member Deirdre.
Aye.
Sorry, I can't type that fast. Member Roberts
Aye.
and Chair Jones.
Aye.
Did you pass a resolution with false information? Are we in agreement with that? That's what the resolution was? You're saying 39,000 square feet, we've submitted maps and
We submitted those maps after we did the work.
Yeah, but that's what we're here tonight.
So we accomplished something, we got it lower, you just showed us something lower.
Yeah, impact serves sewer majority of.
Say that again?
I said. there was a change in the size of the building, but it still impacts to the septics and water use. Yeah,
That's not what you vote with. Vote was much more extensive than that.
So are we gonna get your cooperation to go move forward?
They want open sessions now. Move forward with the application. We'll have to have a conference.
I don't understand procedures.
They just added several fast stops. They vote. Thank you.
Oh, this is 11 feet. Maybe I should not have referenced it. Yeah.
That's what we can down to. And I think we have the gas, which are really the one once in a while. What? Really?
Yeah, it's not.
Other management.
Other.
Other management.
Other vendors. You agree?
Thank you very much.
Surprising.
Reflect the pain that you just.
I know the number of opportunities, so I did that was like 3 or 2.
Well.
They just didn't want it. Should we go into?
I was gonna say, we're still
Going.
Going.
Still
We're still
public.
live.
I think we should go into.
Do we have anything else for tonight? Did
no,
I miss anything?
just to
Can I make a
adjourn.
motion to adjourn?